Welcome to the podcast of heaven, where we talk about faith, autism, telepathy, and much, much more.
I'm Heidi Brown Gilkison. My husband Michael Gilkison and I are both huge fans of the Book of Heaven, and we were fans of the Telepathy Tapes podcast. And it was through our collaboration here with Katie that we decided to follow up to her book, The Book of Heaven. We're producing this podcast, The Podcast of Heaven. This is hosted by Katie Asher and inspired by her son, Houston.
Welcome, everyone, to the podcast of heaven, and we're so excited. It's our very first live episode, and we have our very first guest. Guess who? Libby! This is John Paul's mom. For I'm sure everybody who's listening has listened to the Telepathy tapes, and this is John Paul's mom and my best friend. And of course, Michael and Heidi came down just to do this, and we're thrilled.
At the Miracle House.
This is the Miracle House. And so I'm just so excited that everybody's here. And
me too.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to just open us in prayer because this is just such a special, wonderful time. So.
Yes, let's start off in prayer.
Lord, we are just your children, and we just are here to talk about love and talk about people that we love and talk about how to love each other. And we just pray that you would bless our conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so Libby, I want you to just tell everyone, they have an idea of what John Paul was like, and they have a few of his stories, but like they don't even understand how magnificent of a human giant John Paul was.
He was.
He
really still is.
I know. I like to speak to him like in present tense. Like I speak
love
up
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Once I think I let go of the fact that his physical presence isn't here anymore, but he's still here, it really helps me a lot. Realize he's just he's next door somewhere. Another in the
busy.
Next dimension.
Very busy.
Very busy trying to help get things done. I hear from different people all over the world who will say, John Paul was with me. I know we call he was with us, and I firmly believe it. The things that they tell me are just so fabulous. But they're like, we talk about him, and the lights flicker. We do that. This makes me laugh because he was very busy. He loved people. He liked to be in the middle of things, and he was a riot. He was so big, just so big, his presence, but he was funny, and he didn't have any oh gosh, Katie, he didn't limit himself as far as engaging with people. Like he just tried to engage with everybody, and he wanted to high five people. He wanted to come up, whether he really liked old people too. Like he loved white hair, gray hair. And he would, and I would see him walking up to somebody old, and I'd be like, John Paul, gentle John Paul, and because he would want to high five him, I was afraid he was going to knock him back, and he would go, boop, with just a little hand, boop, to him, and it was amazing because people who were older had lived a nice long life, who had seen so much. Boy, they always surprised me. They were just right there for it. They were ready. I would take John Paul to my mother's. She had dementia and Parkinson's, and I would take him there. They loved him. They just, even if they couldn't, something about John Paul just made them laugh, and they would put their hands up for him, and I think John Paul could see this soul that's lived so much, because he could see people. He could see the good things and the bad things that happened to him. He said that was his sort of his superpower, and then just love them anyway, no matter what their pitfalls are. That was what John Paul was.
And he would he would smell everyone, like he would smell their heads, he would kiss them.
He would smell them, kiss them. He would, you have to guard your drink. I'll probably always be
like
holding
this
my drink because he would come up in the morning. Peter and I would be having our coffee, and he would be butt naked, of course, because he never wanted to wear clothes. And I'd say, John Paul, let me have my coffee. After, of course, he already had a cup, I'd make him a cup. And he would stand literally right next to me with his hands on his shoulders like this. and just sit there butt naked and watch me drink until the last sip. And I gave it to him. He'd take it and he'd walk off, and that was like a daily occurrence. After he had passed, Peter and I were having coffee the very next day, and we just cried. We just sat and cried because we were just having coffee without John Paul there.
I remember that.
It was surreal.
That night, that you, because of course they have locks on everything. Like when you have a child with, severe
pica.
Yeah.
He had pica, and he just was always.
What is pica again?
Eating inedible things.
Yes.
Oh.
A lot of times,
yes.
pregnant women, they're diagnosed with pica because they have a craving for chalk or dirt. It's probably a mineral they're craving. For John Paul's, we had all sorts of blood work done to see what he might have been deficient in, but it was just also became an OCD loop, impulsivity. I mean, it was.
My son says my cooking is pica.
You do some weird stuff.
But, like some of, like the night that John Paul passed, Libby's husband Peter broke down crying because he went to lock the door and realized he didn't have to lock the door.
It was horrible. I mean, it was all the things that we did. They were just so automatic that suddenly it was.
The hypervigilance
hypervigilance
that you're constantly in. It was suddenly like having that taken away. Is like, well, what do I do now?
Your entire world changes.
I had no idea. I had no idea what to do with myself. Like there was so much energy that I had. Well, and also I was probably still in shock as well. What I really couldn't stand is I couldn't hug him anymore. And I loved to touch him and hug him and kiss him. Like that was just, he felt so good.
He's like a
Did he
bear.
not?
It's like hugging like this big, the big giant football player that would, you'd want to be hugged by him because you just feel like you're completely.
You're enveloped.
Yes.
You get enveloped in John Paul.
And it's just almost like.
I love good huggers.
Like getting a hug from God, right? Like you're totally, completely covered
it was so
and safe.
Wonderful. And he just felt good. Like his skin felt so good. It was so soft and I don't know, there was something. And it's like his twin, Thomas, who is also wonderful. I love him just like I love John Paul, but it's two different people, two different personalities. And Thomas is not the hugger, not at least not with me the way John Paul was. So I just I grabbed Thomas and just wanted to hug him and feel the same way, but he and I have a different relationship, and I just felt so empty. With Peter too, everyone was trying to, be, and it was such a void.
And no one, as many people that were trying to hug you and love you, it was not the body that you wanted to hug. You were missing his body, and oh my gosh,
and our routine.
Yes.
People do not even. I know you've done such a good job of trying to explain it, but you just can't even understand how loving he was and how good. Like what a good spirit. That he was and is, unless you knew him.
Right.
It was just a giant.
I think you're describing a bear hug.
Yes, he was a bear.
Because you don't want to, like, as far as guys hugging guys, you don't want to be too feminine about it. So guys will go in and give a good,
he really wasn't
growl.
Like that, though. He didn't hug tight unless. Well, what he would do is he put his arm around me and said, "Tighter, tighter," because he, motor planning and stuff. He wasn't like he was a gentle touch for the.
So
most
you
part.
could
But
get out of
his
it if you wanted. Like if he was wrestling.
Oh yeah.
You could.
His
Okay,
high
so it
fives-
wasn't tight.
No,
it was,
I would say tighter.
It's more like
tighter.
a firm.
I
Like
just
a
wanted to
firm.
It's more like he was so, kind of like
He was
that
careful
scripture
how
about
he
like
was.
how he covers you with his feathers, kind of like that, where
That's
he just
how it felt.
completely envelops
Our
But-
feather blanket, when we
But I will
wrapping
tell
that,
you, his high
fluffy.
fives though were dangerous.
you. They were.
I love a hard high five.
No, they were very even. I would say that even if he high fived the biggest guy, and I'd say, "Get ready for it," and the guy would say, "I'm ready," and jump on, and they're like, "Whoa!" I don't know. It was a gift. Those
It
hard
was.
high fives
Whoa.
were.
He was probably probably trying to like get some input.
Well, absolutely
Yes.
getting input.
And he
it
had
was-
the force almost,
Yeah.
and he would like
Wow.
throw his whole body
Yes.
into it. He would just be
They
like
were
his
so
whole
hard.
body.
And that's why
Wow.
like somebody who I knew, actually there was one kid one time who was medically fragile, and we were going to the neurologist, and this kid was a teen, but he was in kind of a lay down sort of wheelchair. And John Paul, of course, just had to go right up to him. And I'm like, oh my God, Tom, gentle. And John Paul just put his hands out and went, doot, like that. And the boy just, it's like they made this connection, and the boy, because you know that they made a
But
connection.
this, of course, and that's the thing is like our kids have this, like they are operating on the spiritual level all the time
Yeah.
with minimal, motor planning. But even though they're operating on this like full on spiritual level, they make the effort to make physical and spiritual connections all the time,
All the time.
whether we realize it or not. We may not even recognize that something's going on. But I always tell this story about Houston and one of his friends that he went to school with. All three, and I was trying to convince his mom to start spelling, right? And they were standing there in my foyer, and Houston was facing one way, her son was facing a totally opposite direction. They had their backs to each other, and Houston's, rocking back and forth, and I'm trying to convince her, and finally she goes, all right, I'll do it. And Houston and her son turn around and embrace. And she turned and looked at me with her jaw dropped and said, are they friends? And that's what we have missed, is that they are having deep spiritual connections with each other, with the world, with God. And we don't physically see it, but they are, because they're operating on a spiritual level. And
They really are. And things would happen all the time, such as, we went to our friend's house, May's, to go swim. And John Paul and May were really close, dear friends. And I remember we would swim often, but John Paul said they're swimming. May took a while to come out. So May comes out. May walks up and down the pool a little bit, and then all of a sudden John Paul jumps out of the pool and grabs a towel and a bag and hands it to me, and I put the board down, and John Paul spells, May politely asked that we go home. And that was a whole interaction. And so later I said, well, we'll go then, So we went home, and I called another Katie. I called May's mom. I said, what was that all about? And May wasn't feeling well. She was not feeling good. And I think she was afraid to swim, that she might have an accident in the pool. It might have been near her, her period or something. But for whatever reason, and John Paul was not, he just said, May politely asked that we go home. And so but nothing was exchanged that I could see. And then that's what Katie told me, she wasn't feeling well. And so, when people make spellers spell back and forth to each other,
it's obnoxious.
It's a waste of time.
It's for us.
It's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Spelling is for us. It is not for
Yes,
them. They
that's
don't
a
need to
good
spell
point.
back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
So every time I see people, it was so good to see you today, and back and forth, I'm going, oh gosh, they don't need that.
No.
But
It's for us.
it's for us.
Yes,
It's
that's
for
a really
us
good
to educate, because John Paul loved his brain fed. So it's for me to communicate with them. That's thank goodness for spelling, because that's how we know.
Yeah.
But they don't need it for each other.
They're completely fluent.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
that is the soul's way of communication. And because they're more tethered to their soul and their spirit than their physical body, and that's where their connections and their development went into their etheric body as opposed to their physical body. So that's the one that they're using. That's how people who have near-death experiences, they all talk about the same thing, that they're just communicating in their mind.
John Paul said we communicate like the root system of trees. That's how John Paul liked to describe it.
That is so cool.
And Houston calls it a frequency, but it's the
Yes.
same.
Well, that's so the mycelium in the ground are the neurotransmitters that trees use to send messages back and forth. And our gut actually makes our neurotransmitters that send the messages, but in the earth, it's the mycelium.
If you haven't watched Fantastic Fungi, that is
It's the
such
best.
a great documentary. I think Everyone should watch
Is that on Netflix?
It was.
It was, but I think you can still find it. It's so good. It really explains so much about the universe. I mean, it started with mushrooms, about how it works.
To me,
we're all connected.
I was thinking like we're in a room talking right now, but our listeners they can hear it too. And it's almost like they have their own podcast network and they have to spell to let other people know what's happening.
Well, you know what's interesting is
that's just how I always had to process it.
Like they're all connected. So
Right.
we're praying for something, right? For the earth. We have this very like intentional prayer for the earth. And it's very specific. And so we've been praying, we've been telling the angels, we've been telling the trees, we've been telling the earth, like, this is what you need to do. And then Houston gave me this message, and he said that the message had been carried through the earth, and that this thing that we had been praying for is now happening in several states away. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, we don't realize, like, everything is connected.
Everything's connected. Like, it's all one. John Place to always talk about, we're all one.
Yeah.
That's how he could see, they see it so clearly. And really it's just about love. Love is the way.
Yeah.
So spelling, because you guys had said like it's for them, or it's for us, it's not for them, and I totally agree. But do you also agree that your relationship with your sons
We need
have
spelling.
improved through spelling, have improved with the spelling?
We need spelling
Yes.
to communicate with,
I couldn't read John Paul's mind.
Right,
He
and
could
that-
To
read
get a
my
better
thoughts.
relationship with them.
because
Yeah.
and to understand what he needed, to understand the depth. Even when I started at the beginning of spelling to presume competence, even then I didn't understand the depth of intelligence and faith and personhood and worthiness and conviction that was my son.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm going to think you I started with, I just think that I'm going to think you understand me. That was where I started. But
Yes.
knowing the man
Yeah.
that I had raised, that was
Yeah.
unreal.
The
And
good
I
soul
wouldn't
that he
have
is,
known
yes.
it without spelling. I wouldn't have.
Right. No,
And it's so funny because
absolutely.
it kind of parallels a relationship with God, because you can start off with just knowing that you want to know God, just deciding that you want to know God, and then the Word is how you know Him better.
Yes, so true. And and I love, like, he's the Alpha and the Omega. He is the Word. He is literally the Word. Like, he's through whom all things come. And I love that, the Alpha and the Omega, because I mean, letters are so important to us. Like, he is literally like the very, like, the alphabet.
I always felt like John Paul was so happy and so, I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't suffer, because he suffered. That was the thing. He suffered a lot on earth. He had seizures, he had pain, he threw up almost after every meal. He would go and throw up, and then in the sink, because he had a routine, and he would throw up in the sink instead of making a big mess. But I had to pick out all the things he'd swallowed throughout the day that were inedible, that wouldn't go down the disposal. But it was like, and he'd bang his head. He had a lot of self-injurious behaviors, and he would spell. But see, he could spell, I'm not trying to hurt myself, I'm trying to regulate myself. He had headaches. We were always trying to, and that was the thing in episode 9 with Becky. Becky did say, he doesn't miss the pain. I'll tell you that right now. He does not miss his pain. And so for him to suffer the way he did, and still to have this joyful, beautiful soul, always just absolutely, it amazed me, that he, like when his teacher said, what do you like best about yourself? And John Paul spelled everything. I love everything
that
about
answer.
myself. He took it all. And I think though, my thing is that I feel like because he had seen the other side, he had seen what lies ahead, and that this is all temporary, and that love, he could see the end game.
Yes.
That once you see that, you don't have fear, and you can get through the hard stuff, because you know that there's so much better waiting for you, that this is just what you do to get through to the next. And he lived so full and for the 17 years he was here, he lived such a full life, and brought so much joy and purpose. He had a mission, which he's making me carry on now.
I honestly
working
agree.
His mother now, and because he couldn't do it, his Noah said, I can't do it in the body I have here, but I can do it from, there. And so I literally think he must have been whispering in my ear all night. Because when I woke up the day after he died, I'm like, Peter, we gotta get busy. We have to create this website. It was kind of like boom, boom, boom. It just had to happen. But, I think that for our guys, because they do see that John Paul saw angels, he saw aura, he saw all of it. Like, what is there to fear?
Yeah.
What is there?
Well, and he could live.
Yeah.
He could live a full life, even with all of his, the limitations that his body kept, constantly him having to deal with.
Yeah.
He could still live a full life because he knew why he was here. He knew what his purpose was, and he truly didn't listen to the world. He sought his whole purpose and was completely focused on that and that alone.
And he never went to church. We couldn't go to church.
Yeah.
We couldn't. I did read, read the boys' stories from the Bible, because I love Bible stories personally. Growing up, I loved hearing Bible
Me
stories.
too.
I just loved them. I loved all of them. But I just read them a lot. But the really sad thing is, for a while before I found spelling, I didn't necessarily. I would read sometimes in Thomas's room. But I did, I would go to John Paul's room, but that was later when John Paul but John Paul was listening the whole time. And I'm glad, though, that I did so much reading with both of them, because he was taking it all in. So for me to, I feel bad that anytime I gave Thomas something, I wasn't even John Paul, he was still getting it.
Well,
I didn't realize he was still getting it.
And I want people to understand that so what would happen, because I felt the exact same way with Houston. I would try to read to him and he would just run away, and he couldn't keep still.
Right.
And so, of course, as a parent, if your child runs away from you when you're trying to sit down and read to them and love them and spend this special time with them, it's heartbreaking. And so, heartbreaking. And so I know exactly, because it almost feels like your child's, like, we were mourning our children the entire time that they were alive, because we weren't able to have the experiences of that, those intimate, wonderful, precious moments that you have raising a child.
The normal moments. The moments that are normal. And
Yes.
I remember at Easter, we were at the beach, and my dad, who was raised Southern Baptist, was sitting there, and we had just, I was so tired. I had just chased John Paul over the place and trying to do an Easter egg hunt and everything. And I remember I looked at my dad, I said, I don't know how the conversation went, but I was so angry at God, and I said, if there is a God. I looked at him like that was so worn out, and I literally said, if there is a God. And my dad's eyes just got so big, and I was so angry at God at that time, and just, why could you do this to my precious boy? How could you punish him like that? It was more, I felt so bad for him than me. And my dad looked at me just shocked that I would even say that, and he said, I'm just going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you, honey, whatever that. And I said, thank you, Dad. But I came back. I was mad at God. I was like, I think people don't realize God can handle you being mad at him.
Yeah,
God can handle it. It's like your children get mad at you. You don't disown them. God can handle it. He's like, yeah, look at Libby. Look at my little daughter there, just so mad.
And just like your
stomping her feet.
But it is just like your kids. When your kids get mad, like you know the bigger picture. As a parent, you know what else is going on. You are seeing the bigger picture, and you can't. They have to go through this hard part. They have to learn this hard lesson. All of these things are going to be good for them, and that they're gonna get to where you are and realize, oh, that was why.
It's our, because we as
now.
parents go on this journey. Our kids are on a journey, and we're on a journey. And when I look at people's Instagrams and see where they are in their journey with their child, if they're an Instagrammer and if they talk about their child, it's so interesting, because I know exactly where they are when they're still. Because I have to say, once we started spelling, and I realized John Paul was always there. He always knew who God was. He always knew. He knew. I mean, I was like, it does something to regardless of their religion, whether they're celebrating Hanukkah or they're celebrating Easter, they're usually so sad because they don't think their child understands why they're celebrating. And they get so sad because I know that feeling, because I had that feeling. And I want to reach out and I want to say, no, they do. They absolutely celebrate. One of them's like, we didn't even put up a tree this year. I'm like, no, put up a tree, celebrate. But then they look at you like you're crazy, and you're like, please, just, your child's in there. So that's why this movement, this
these parents have to know.
Spelling, parents have telepathy. They have to know that their energy and their actions directly affect their child's. Yeah. I see it all.
It is not what you see.
It's not what you see, and there's so much there that they're taking in, but it's hard. It really is hard to tell a parent who hasn't found that yet, because they're in the struggle. They're sleep deprived. They're exhausted. They're scared. They're worried.
They're grieving.
They're grieving. They may have other children.
That's
that they're
I was
having
going to
to
say
deal
it probably
with,
colors. You were a mother of 5. It probably colors every experience you have with your other kids as well.
Well, and they're resentful.
Right.
And before you guys came, I was telling my youngest that okay, they're bringing their son, and but anyway, bottom line, it was this experience, and then another experience with another family who have other children.
Yes.
And I'm like, these other kids, like, they don't understand what you understand, and you have the opportunity to give them your insight and how you would do things differently, knowing what you know now.
Yeah.
And he said, I would do anything to keep people from feeling the way I felt growing up about my brother.
I hate that too.
Oh,
It
wow.
breaks your heart. Like Thomas,
I never even realized the
Oh.
guilt Josh was.
It's
it's so
horrible.
hard. Thomas has his own, and even though growing up, them being twins, I always was checking with Thomas. I gave Thomas. I hate when people say to me, Thomas, he didn't get the same things that John Paul did as far as my attention. It kind of really, I get upset by that, because I worked super hard to make sure Thomas felt loved. Like I let him sleep with me every night, and I'm a snorer, so I sleep suffering from Peter so he can sleep. And so Thomas, he needed that extra love from me and to feel special, until he decided, ew, I don't want to sleep with my mother anymore. But I let him crawl into bed with me every night. We had our routines. We did so many special things for him to feel special, that it's like no family situation's perfect. You can have no autistic kid in the family, and someone's going to feel unloved. Someone's going to feel like they don't get enough. And so I'm always thinking I worked so hard, but Thomas more has, I think he feels bad that he didn't include his brother more, because Thomas had this, I think he feels like he didn't give his brother enough attention. But I said, you were a great brother. You're just who you are. I said, and that was just your life, and you wanted some privacy.
Well,
and John Paul was in your business a
We're
lot.
all trying our
Not
best.
just that, but these siblings are dealing with how the world perceives
the stress.
how the world perceives their
Yes.
autistic siblings,
Who they love.
And so they see the world mocking, they see the world irritated, annoyed, they see all the people's reactions, and then they're in this horrible position of like, I'm supposed to love my brother, but I'm embarrassed by this, and I can feel that person's the stigma and their judgment of us as a family. And then what happens is these kids are like, why am I born into this family? Why couldn't I be born into a family that didn't have
So many layers of mental gymnastics they've had to deal with.
Well, and I will say one thing that I always, we laughed so much. I always wanted to bring humor and make things lighthearted and which is good and bad. I did it for my own, because I wanted a happy house. And I said, Thomas, not everybody makes a joke out of things, but I had to laugh about things because it was ridiculous. This 6'8" naked boy waiting for me, or in the driveway when we come home. These things were, and so, but to laugh about them I mean, sometimes that's
Yeah.
a Southern way, you know, we try to laugh about a lot of
Yeah.
things instead of crying
It's
about them,
wild.
but it was important to me to have a joyful home, you know,
Yeah.
because I could cry behind the scenes, and I did a lot, but not, and I didn't want Thomas to see his mother unhappy. I didn't want John
Yeah.
Paul, you
Well,
know.
and the reality is, and this is
And
just
everyone's different.
well,
Some
and
people
this is
can't do that. I understand that.
this is something that we have to, as a society, we have to address, and that is, whenever you have apraxia, a severe apraxia, global apraxia, where it affects your whole body and you don't have control of your body, you can't abide by social norms. You don't have
It's
the ability.
impossible.
And society has got to just lose the social norms.
Katie, that is 100. Like I always would say, autism is not our problem. It's society that's our problem.
Yes.
We are fine. We are
Yes.
making
We can
it.
handle
We
it.
can handle this. It's that we can't just go out and have a nice time because John Paul's gonna do something bizarre, and God forbid someone make a big deal, you know, a deal of it and embarrass you and ruin the evening or ruin the
Yes.
time. You know, sometimes you have to be willing. That's why I pick my friends so carefully at some point. Like I could tell in 30 seconds of talking to someone, almost, that sounds judgmental, but I could tell if they were going to be able to handle John Paul or not. You can almost, and then if they're like, you know, we'd love if you would come over. I said, okay, but just realize that John Paul is going to probably get naked and go lay in your bed, because that's what he does when he goes to a new place. He's going to go check it out. He's going to go get naked, get in your bed,
Open
and just
every single
feel it
cabinet,
out, and he's
eat
going to
all the
open.
food.
He's going to go to the kitchen. He's going to open the fridge. So if you have some weird thing, I mean, if that's a problem for you, then okay. But we can't really, because I mean, I can't separate them. You know, like I can't. I don't really want to live in two worlds if I don't have to, and that's sometimes you feel with an autism. If you have like neurotypical kids and autistic kids in your family, you live this double life. It's like you go to lunch with the ladies at Thomas's school, and the conversations are so different, and then you go into the autism world, and you are living this dual life, and it feels so. You almost feel like you're cheating on the other one. I mean, it's a weird dynamic, and that's why it's so important to find great friends.
And you feel,
that can do both.
and this is why we so attached to each other in this community, because we're the only people that know what this life is about, and we know that if we're with other, like, we don't have to sit there and be like I can't even. I know it seems minor, but people would be like, oh, he just put that in his mouth. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm like, gonna swallow it too. Trust me, it's okay.
We get it.
Yeah, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it.
And you find yourself parenting your child differently in front of other people than you would at home.
Happy.
To make them happy.
To appease
It's
that
all
person.
about
I
them.
can relate to that. I deal with that a little bit with my child too.
I'm sure you
small
do.
fraction, but like I can understand that.
Yeah, it's just it's so annoying because you're acting.
Yes.
Like, why am I
And your kid's looking at you like,
Why
you
am I
wouldn't
doing
do this
this?
at home.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're like, basically, I'm a
he'll call
liar
it
to
out
make you
in
feel
front of
comfortable.
That's right. Yeah, just to make everybody, or that my parenting is up to par. You know, like, because they think she just never spanked that kid. I hate that one.
Yes.
She just never. I'm like, oh, please give me a break. You have no idea. I could spend my entire life and I'd be chasing John Paul around. And I honestly think sometimes when I see unbelievable dysregulation, there are times I think that child is dysregulated because there's no peace for them. They're constantly. I mean, they don't get peace because their family can't let them just be.
Yeah.
And it's really I couldn't do that.
It is
I
having.
didn't have the energy.
It is
or the
having to-
will
That's
do. I don't
difficult
wanna do
to
that.
watch. Since I've known you guys and read the book
Mhm.
and the podcast and everything, I will witness that happening, you know, in my life, like at church or something, with an extremely dysregulated child, and it's so hard. Like I'm like, I can't step in. I'm not involved. I don't even know them that well, but I can feel it.
Well, also, I mean, especially in public, those parents are not just having a child who's dysregulated by who knows what trigger, but they're also being anxious by worrying about what other people are thinking and feeling.
And what mommy's feeling. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
John Paul would spell. We'd be out in public, and John Paul had this very loud loop of a scream. Like he would go, but I mean, we are talking.
It was.
would
I'll
rock
explain.
windows.
Let me explain.
Siren.
I would, yes, kind of.
He would put. Oh, I've seen a lot of autistic kids do this over the years, and when I work with kids too, if they have this, John Paul was a seeker, and he also loved noises and stuff. But he got something out of putting his hand here, and it would echo into his ear. He loved that sound, but it was. Sorry.
I would be Libby and I would be going somewhere with the boys. I would be in my car, all the windows up, radio on. They would be in their car behind me, and his siren noise would come out louder than whatever I was listening to. It would be that loud, and it would vibrate
that sounds
entire
so
buildings.
Cool. It really isn't cool because it's
It hurts
so
your
loud.
ears.
It is loud.
But
Yeah.
it's very loud. But it also, he did it nonstop a lot of times. Like there were
no.
times. I mean, we did have quiet in the house too, but also that was like his favorite. That was his. It just felt good, I guess, to him. It was a stem, and we tried hard. Sometimes even trying to break it actually strengthens it. So you have to be so careful when you get, because it was kind of a verbal loop of his. And the years I spent trying to get rid of it, I was probably making it a stronger loop. It just not realizing that as I was giving it attention and trying to address it, it was becoming something bigger.
And this is something just
myelinated loop.
for people to understand that whenever these kids have got something like that, you don't necessarily want to target that.
Want to scramble it.
You want to redirect. So you are trying so you're trying to essentially disrupt that myelinated neural pathway that is just, it's firing over and over again.
Myelinated.
And so
myelinated means it's a well lubricated.
so
it
basically
goes straight to that
every
one.
time
It's
so
very
every time
quick
you do
pathway.
yeah, every time you do a motor activity, it creates insulation around that neural pathway. This is why you can go into why you can drive home and not remember driving
or dancing. It's so well. It's just
it creates
everything
insulation.
You do is over repetition.
So you don't have to actually produce any motor planning to activate the neural pathway, because the brain already has all the steps.
Yes.
So it's already got all this motor planning, and so it just executes them all
Muscle
with you
memory.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it is muscle.
Wow.
Without you knowing,
And
or not knowing.
So here's the
thinking
thing.
through it.
Flow of water through pipes.
Well, so like if John Paul, it's same thing with like grabbing food or grabbing someone's drink. It's also that reptilian brain quickly doing this before. It's almost like that's so quick before the executive functioning is coming in and saying, "Hey, this is inappropriate."
Well, okay, there's
with like grabbing something.
yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
there's
I can
four.
see that.
So there's four components of movement. There's initiation. There is continuing the movement. There's changing directions, and there's stopping the movement.
That's
Now,
a lot.
that
has
is
to
a
happen.
lot.
We do it naturally.
Wow.
Just what I did just now.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
But if you've
That's
got
why
a
we pause.
myelinated neural pathway, that will fire
Yes.
before you can go through all the other steps of motor planning to
Oh my
control and
gosh.
inhibit and change a behavior. This is
Yeah.
why they have to have somebody outside helping them to motor plan.
But it's
Yes.
not behavior
It's not.
in the way that the world views behavior.
Well, behavior
the negative
implies-
connotation,
Yeah.
which is why
Behavior implies there's like choice.
well,
or
it
intent.
implies intent.
Right.
And if you don't have control, which they don't have the ability to initiate and control and motor plan, that's why there's no control. So if you don't have control, there is no intent. What we're seeing, what the behaviors are these myelinated, impulsive motor pathways that are firing before the motor planning can be executed.
Yes, yeah. It's kind of like sometimes when you've got a dad who commutes and you ask him to pick up something on the way home from your commute, and he's just so used to his commute,
Yeah.
and he
He can't.
forgets.
Right.
He's not intentional. It's not.
Yeah.
He didn't mean to.
Yeah.
He just.
Or I could be talking. Well, I should be. I'm on my hands-free phone in the car.
Georgia is a hands-free state, I saw.
Yes,
we
it
are
is.
hands-free state.
Yes.
And when I'm driving, but But if I'm talking to someone and I'm actually supposed to be going somewhere else, sometimes I'll just go straight home and I'm like, oh my God, or miss my exit and think, and so that's just, it's just our guys live that way, and then
we get little like, spurts of it, little
we get moments of it. They live with it, but then they live with the guilt of it too, and they live with this. And then if you can't talk and you can't spell and you can't explain yourself, you're never understood. And
then people are angry and judging and upset with you, and you can't.
Can you imagine living in that prison of silence and knowing that you've upset your mom and you can't even explain yourself? But what's nice about the spelling is that with 26 letters, you can explain anything. Yeah. That's the difference between people say, well, why not like an AAC device? And the alphabet is just, you can use it, you can do anything.
Well, with 26 letters, you get the entire language. Right. And instead of 25 pictures, which may not even be what you want to communicate.
And John Paul we had everything. People are like, well, he had Proloquo. We had letterboards. We had yes/nos. We used everything. He might bring a magazine and show me a picture of something maybe he wanted to eat. I believe in total communication. But when it comes to meaningful, and it comes to, if you want to really hear what's in their soul, 26 letters is the way to go, because it may not be programmed on the device, or maybe they sim on that device, or maybe the alphabet on the device. If you haven't taught a method of spelling, and I'm not going to say there probably is that kid that was able to spell from that, but our kids need a method to teach them, because they have all different issues that interfere.
The problem is the neural. So that what happens is they'll just go to like one two and they'll like spell out burger, right? Instead of using neural, and that becomes a loop. That becomes myelinated every time they do it, and then
it's a requesting machine.
Yes,
like AAC's turns into a requesting machine. The moms, that's fine. The mom might be happy with the fact that their kid can just give their basic needs, but there's so much more. Like, do you want to know what's in there? No, they don't, because they don't presume competence.
Yes. Well, they've been told.
It's not their fault. They know and like a lot of times, I remember in my early speech path days before I knew any of this, which I would love to go back in time, but you can't. And, the parent.
Well, I think our kids might be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to figure it out.
The parent would say, here I am getting this BS test results, because all the testing done is all motor planning is required for them to complete.
So real quick,
the test.
just for people who don't know, who are listening, every single IQ test requires the ability to control and motor plan. So if you don't have distinct,
so none of those are valid.
Nothing is valid. None of those language tests you give these kids who have apraxia, which is their motor planning problem. And add all the anxiety and anything else that might be involved in their being as well. You cannot test their cognitive abilities. You cannot do it. And so I'm sitting here telling a mother that her 15-year-old is operating on a 2.5-year-old or a 12, and the mother just looks at me and they gave me so much grace. They're smiling and they're like, okay, they just like I had to do. When it was so funny. They showed me grace because they knew I was trying to do. I love their kid, but like we had it so wrong. And now my problem now is that we know better, but as a whole, we're not doing better. Yeah. And that is the problem: is that we know this, but nothing is changing fast enough.
Yes. Yeah.
And that there's an agenda there that we need to
it's
stop.
The institution doesn't want to change. So people are starting to realize, I think for a long time people have known that IQ tests are harmful for everyone.
Yeah.
And they're really based on what the people getting the test are good at and want to know
Cultural
about.
bias.
Yes.
Is
Instead
there
of,
as well.
I don't even believe in intelligence anymore. I believe in aptitudes.
I love your conversation you had, was it with Betsy?
Probably.
With aptitude. Because it's the truth.
Who's to say one gift is better than another gift?
I will tell you.
Yeah.
In that Q testing, we had to all be IQ tested. I had a great IQ, but I couldn't do math to save my life. You know, like it does not calculate the fact that I have a learning disability. It doesn't equate to how are you. Like some people can have the highest IQ ever and be lazy as could be and never do anything with it.
A lot of
And
it has to do with timing and speed too, which was always bizarre to me.
Timing,
It's like
speed,
why
because
if it takes me too long but I still get it right? Why is that wrong?
Right. Because I mean the thing about an IQ test, it's basically for a certain box.
Yeah.
When it depends on a lot of things, but it doesn't show learning disabilities because Peter, my husband's dyslexic. I have dyscalculia, and we actually one time he made me do he had an IQ test he did. He scored well. He wanted me to take it. You know, back when we were first married, I
tried to do the mental.
And we did the same test. We got the exact same score. And he was like, "How in the world did you do that with all the math on there?" And I said, "Because it's an IQ test. It's like I drew pictures. I did all this stuff to figure out." I was like, "You dyslexic. How did you do all the other stuff?" And he pulled from all different things.
That's actually a more incredible way of.
But it was how
Yes.
we did it. And I said, but that doesn't tell you really anything. So that's why, because my aptitudes were, art and love and reading people and like EQ, emotional intelligence, understanding people and body awareness. I was an athlete, but God, give me math, forget it. Like logic stuff, like with logic, that kind of thing. No, I'm not good at that. That is not my thing. I can't. I would never even want to do any job that required making change. Or those were big.
That would trigger anxiety
to me because my anxiety was crazy.
Yeah.
So but at my school, if you can't do math and those things, you're seen as dumb. That's how, and that's what people are always seeing. Like I got laughed at all the time growing up because I couldn't do math, and my school was very math strong. But luckily I went to a school that celebrated the arts and so I was in sports. So we're pretty well rounded, but still. If you couldn't fit that math mold of everybody, and I couldn't, I rewrote the economic theory in my senior year. I completely, in fact, that my mom had gone to school with our teacher, and I said, "Mom's like, is Libby gonna get out of here? Is she gonna get out?" And he said, "Well, she rewrote the entire economic theory. It was fascinating." And I will pass her because she's got to go on to college. And I picked a field I didn't have to be strong in math, speech pathology, where I love people and I can just do that, and that's my strength. That's my aptitude.
Well, and the whole thing is like this. There's this bias in education, in the institution of education, that intelligence equates to worth. 100%. And they're trying to categorize people. They want to classify, the whole classification in the sciences. We're going to have this genus and family and species and everything. They want to label everybody. But
you can't have one kind of smart.
You can't.
And make the world go on.
Well,
you can't all have one thing.
They're
Everybody
also
has a
putting
gift.
themselves in the position of judge.
Right.
And they don't have that right.
Exactly. That's the crazy making thing.
Yes.
Is that the people listen, we need those people. I can tell you right now, the man who I had brain surgery, and I loved how smart that man was because I really was. And I don't know, I think I've always been able to see unbelievable intelligence in people in different ways. Like my family in Alabama, boy, I put my life in their hands. My cousin may not be a math whiz. My dad was actually he was a math whiz, but I tell you what, I would put because they have so much freaking common sense and able to make things work, fix things, build things. We got to have that kind of brilliance too.
We need to celebrate
and a lot of times,
all of the gifts.
Yes, and a lot of times those scientists that are so committed to the intelligence tests and statistics and labels, they lack common sense.
Yes.
Majorly.
Well, they also tend to lack kindness.
Empathy
and the emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And they have a superior view of themselves, which they shouldn't. They should recognize their common humanity. We should all be recognizing the common humanity. And that's what John Paul was so incredible
Oh,
at.
he saw the beauty in everybody and the special in everyone. I mean, he really did. In fact, I love this story. The lady our housekeeper that comes, she came once a week and she would love John Paul, and she was so wonderful. She had an assistant, and the assistant, that came and helped. So my housekeeper is just beautiful. I mean, she's absolutely stunning, and her assistant was not. She was lovely, but she had a harder life, and you could tell she had a hard life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, John Paul would not leave her alone.
Oh.
And then later, I said, John Paul, you cannot leave, Lucita alone. And he spells, she's so beautiful. And he could see
Her heart.
her heart. She's the dearest person, but he saw so much deeper. And he said, she's just so beautiful.
It's like Shallow Hal,
Aw.
right?
Yeah.
It's exactly like Shallow Hal. Like these
Yeah.
kids, like they see the real person. They also see the ugly.
Yeah. Well, I told,
Yeah.
and I
It's the
made sure,
ugly under.
and the ugly.
Yeah.
But I made sure this lady knew that John Paul had said that about her. And the next time she came over, I mean, it did something for her.
It
To
does
know that
teach you
someone had seen
the
Who you
beauty
really
inside.
are.
beauty in her. I mean, it did
Yeah.
something for her that
Yeah.
she was really seen. And that's what John Paul could really see somebody. But he still loved them, even if they were awful.
Yeah.
John Paul could see why they were awful. He said, I can see their pitfalls and still love them.
Yeah.
You know, that was his gift.
Yeah.
I
Did
have
he see
had.
auras too?
Oh, yeah.
What was her? Did he say what her aura was? The color?
You know what? I probably did ask. I can't remember. But he saw like it was he. But I would tell people that John Paul, if I asked, I would tell them what he said their aura was, and it was always people were always really delighted if he really, even if it was like a different color than what was it would still delight people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I
like-
remember this one time, Houston, was very honest
Mhm.
and told someone about a lot of
Your aura is black.
Not such a beautiful
brown.
aura.
It was brown, okay,
Yeah.
which
He
everyone
told-
knows brown
he
is
told
bad.
me about the gray in my aura.
Yeah, and anyway, and brown is very selfish and can be greedy and just
Jealous.
and it's definitely one if you want to work on, right, for sure.
And you can change aura.
You
Yeah.
can,
It
you
doesn't
can,
stay
because
the
it is
same.
Yeah,
because
we
it's
talked about it.
resonating
Changes.
with what you're doing. Like your actions create energy, and then
Yeah.
So anyway, he so I was like so like trying to like share this what I knew was bad news, and she sat there and she goes, "It's not like I don't know that about myself."
I love that.
Okay, well,
I love that.
and I think
Good.
Houston, even though it's painful for people, he
That's how it
exposes
like
the
it
truth.
is. Well, Houston said with mine, he said there's holes in yours from losing John Paul.
Yeah.
Like just a sadness. Like he
Yeah.
said there's holes.
Yeah.
And they're healing. I know it's healing and getting better and
Which
better.
that reminds
we
me.
should ask him.
That reminds me. I found this
I
amazing.
want an update.
I found this
I need an update too.
amazing website last night that I got way too excited about, and now I like filled up a shopping cart, and I'm like, okay, this is wrong. I need to I can't buy everything on the site, but it's flower essences, and so
Flower essences.
this is so incredible. All right, so and I've known about flower essences because it's all frequency and energy, right? And so the different flowers have different. This is why we can smell things and like feel different ways,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so anyway. Whenever at the beginning of the website, it's talking about how when God created the heavens and the earth, and that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, right? And she said, there's really no way that we can correctly and adequately translate those Hebrew letters into the English meaning.
Yeah.
Oh,
she
you
said-
sent me a good video.
Yeah.
And
about that.
But basically it was, and remember the water contains memory. Water can
It's
have,
intelligence.
yes, it is intelligent. And so here is the Spirit of God with everything that is good and holy and incredible and light and truth and life hovering, literally vibrating, imputing the frequency into the water. And I was like, And so that she was like, remember that when you understand flower essences. And just going through all these things. One of them, though, was I want to say it was like the fragment finder. But it was like all these, like, whenever you are fragmented because of trauma, that it helps to actually start to begin to heal the fragments.
The flower. Okay, so this is so interesting. So this is why there are no accidents. I'm just going to say coincidences are
not true.
Not true. There is no such thing as a coincidence. In fact, I've been talking to
even coinky dinks.
Not even coinky dinks.
Not even coinky dinks.
I love Rob Gentile said that coincidence is just God's way of staying anonymous.
Yes, I read that before. I love it.
I love that because that's true. So with the flower thing, so I did a friend of mine came who is very telepathic herself, and she said, I just want to tell you some things. I just want to share this with you. She said, John Paul, he calls you his rose, and said that he calls you his rose, and what he does, she says he's showing me almost like a hula hoop of roses that he puts around you as protection. So she said, so then I'm talking to Sarah Intonato, Sarah Intonato, and I did a podcast, and we were talking about it after the podcast was over. I was telling her about the roses and stuff, and she said, Libby, that's so interesting. She's like, because I have gone to several like healing retreats in India, and they talk about the roses, and red roses in particular are very protective roses.
Oh, real quick, just so everyone knows, essential oil, rose essential oil, like rose I think it's Damascus. Anyway, but it is the highest vibrating essential oil.
She says, so she's talking about how important that particular, and then literally Peter walks in the door with 12 dozen red roses and hands them to me. He's like, here, honey, and gives them to me. I'm like, you cannot make this stuff up. This is so hilarious. I took a photo and sent it to Sarah, and we just laughed. But all that happened basically within the same day. Red roses everywhere, and we're laughing because John Paul, he does protect. He is always there, always sending me numbers, always letting me know he's around. And now I'm paying attention to red roses keep popping up for me constantly.
I love that. I love that so
and
much.
we don't realize that everything is connected.
Right.
Everything, and everything is living, and everything is alive, and everything is energy, and
our
it's
thoughts are energy.
everything.
Our thoughts are living.
Yeah.
It's
our emotions
once you
are energy.
realize how much control you actually do have over yourself and your well-being in your life. It's sort of in many ways.
Hey, we have a visitor a little bit.
Houston, hi. Just say hi.
Hey, Houston.
We're doing the podcast.
Houston, go ahead and
I
go
gotta
on
have my
upstairs,
Houston
okay?
touch.
Can you go on up while we're recording, please?
Hello.
Aww.
I love you.
No, not.
Thanks, Mom.
I wish I could.
Houston,
maybe
go on
later.
upstairs. We'll do something later, but go on upstairs right now, okay?
Yes.
Okay, go on up.
Houston, you're such a good guy.
We love you.
John Paul would be. John Paul would be standing
Naked?
right here until we went to McDonald's. I'm just telling you, he wouldn't move. He'd be right here
I
staring
know,
at us
it's
till it's
really
over.
amazing how well he's doing.
He is.
Yeah.
He's doing really great.
And I wanted to clarify or just like kind of mention, and this is way earlier when you were talking about Pika. Didn't Houston have it too for a while? It was in the book.
Not as severe as John Paul's, which he had some incredible stories. So you got to tell the hematite story.
Okay, this is really funny. I still have them. So Katie comes over, and Katie, she has her crystals and her energy and all this. So she's like, I think hematite would be so great for John Paul.
Because it's grounding.
Because it's grounding and it's magnetic. It's just all these.
He would
cool
feel
things.
the energy
and they feel good. They're these round, nice, hard. People massage them in their hands. They like people
Feels
use them for
good.
hands, all sorts of things. So Katie comes in and she's like, "Here you go." Like it was so neat, and I'm like, "Oh, you're so cool." And John Paul is kind of looking at them, playing with them, and then we walk away, come back, and they're gone. They're gone. John Paul swallowed every single one, all 5 hematite balls.
These are
went
large
down. They're
balls.
like about that big.
Rocks.
They're all down.
Yeah.
They're round. They're like marble.
They're smooth.
Yeah.
They're heavy. Yeah, smooth. They
So
all
they
went
wouldn't get
down.
lodged in
So
the throat or anything.
no, he must have had a throat that could expand because of things he put down there. But
Oh my
and you
goodness.
cannot stop him. That's the thing. When he does it, he's so big. He turns his shoulder and they're
And he's
gone.
6'8", and he's
Yes.
like up here, and he's like guard. You
And
can't get
if
to
you
him.
understood that this was a daily life occurrence, we had to go to the hospital for a button battery. That's a non-negotiable. You have to go to the hospital for a button battery.
Oh, and tell
It will-
everybody if anybody swallows one,
Oh,
what
yes.
do you do?
If your child swallows a button battery, you
Okay.
still have to get them to the hospital, but you want to give them honey. Have them swallow honey because it will coat the battery. But
To prevent an
you
electrical
still have to
charge.
get your way to the hospital because it will burn them all the way down. It will destroy their insides. So and then John Paul one time.
So is that the
swallowed
flat ones?
the flat ones?
The flat ones.
And they're packaged very carefully, so they're really hard to get into, and they do put a bad taste on them. But for a kid like an autistic kid that's a sensory seeker, that means
Well, and
nothing.
they
It means nothing.
bad taste can be good
Can
taste
be,
to them.
yeah, they can. It
Yeah.
can be.
It's just they process it because
It's
of
like
the noxious
sour.
stimuli.
Yeah,
Like
does.
some lemon
Yes,
or
it
something.
means nothing. And if it's a loop, they're still gonna pop it in.
So a lot of people that like tequila shots that would understand that
Yeah.
the bad is
Definitely.
good.
Yes, the bad is good.
Definitely. The
Yeah.
bad can be so good.
Yes.
So, so the thing is, he also one time swallowed, 5 4-inch nails, and he came to me and he just say hurt so bad, and luckily he could spell and tell me that because I assumed it was appendicitis. So we went to the hospital. They took the X-ray. He had passed 2 of them because he come to me to show me his bottom and there was blood on it, and I'm
Oh,
thinking.
man.
Yeah.
What the world?
Well, there's a good example of how spelling can be useful for
Spelling
kids.
was terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went to the hospital. They do an X-ray, and I made a reel about it actually, because this is just a reality of life for us. But you can see as clear as day 3 nails. You see a wire he swallowed, and you see a key that from Peter's. So. When I took JP for X-rays, people were always, they would say, he's got. I was like, I know, he will pass it. It's just, you can only do so much, and at some point, you have to just.
It's
live
hard
your
to
life.
literally
you
lock
don't know
up every
anything.
single
You
thing
can't.
that they could.
There
You can't
is
even think
no way.
because it seems unreal. There's no way someone would put that in there, and you
Right.
just
Yeah,
can't
what do
even.
you do? Leave them with a mattress on the floor?
I mean,
And
right,
they'll
you
eat the
can't.
mattress.
Like John Paul, we'd be eating Chick-fil-A, right? So he would have his Chick-fil-A, and we'd be in the car, and he would look at me, and then all of a sudden he'd take the wrapper, with the wrapper, and he'd shove it in his
Yeah.
mouth, and he'd swallow that.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, it either came out one end or the other. And that was kind of, and only if he spelled it, he was really hurting, did we go do something.
Oh, wait, finish telling about
Okay,
the
so the
hematite.
hematite. So I'm thinking, okay, I looked it up. It's not, I mean, it's going to more than likely pass, right? So we were up at the cabin, and he'd gone to the bathroom. He comes out. And I look in the toilet. He had flushed the toilet, but these did not go down, probably because
They're so heavy. Yeah.
and magnet, whatever. And they were they were back together in a little circle in the toilet, but they had paper clips and coins and
75
everything.
cents and
That
change.
he had out of his gut came out with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I asked
The hematite helped bring it
Well,
back.
listen,
But I
yeah.
did talk to the pediatrician, and I told him the story, and he's laughing. He said, "Oh my God!" And I said, "Is this like, should I give him these like once a month just to kind of clean out whatever
I
might
know,
be
it
in
sounds
there?"
like his internal organs
Yeah,
needed
he
grounding.
said, "Absolutely not." He
Yeah.
said, "Because you're just lucky that even that, because you never know what could attach to it. It might be too big, and it might hurt him." So I did my best to. But there's no way you cannot, when you have an autistic that is so bound and determined, every little thing is going to go. You just can't live your life constantly guarding that. There's no way to.
Yeah.
In fact, the button battery didn't even happen at my house. It happened at a therapy place, and thankfully they called to tell me. And this is another really important thing I think parents need to understand, is everyone's doing the best they can. So, I wasn't mad at them. I was actually so grateful they had called me to tell me, because that would have hurt him terribly. So, you have to be aware of these people. There are great therapists, there's not great therapists, but everyone's really trying to do their best. And I was so grateful that they knew they could call me and tell me that, and I'd be like, thank you so much. It wasn't, well, why in the world did they get a hold of it?
Yeah.
You don't do that to people who are trying to help you. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's different thoughts. Some people want to just attack and sue and this and that. And then I'm realizing, because I know how hard my life is, and I'm thinking, these people are trying to help me. I'm not going to bite the person that's trying to help me. And if John Paul can do it at my house just as easily as he could do it there, and if anything, you know, I think that we have to, there are people, there are therapists that are not good and abusive. We do have that in this world, but
Yes. Yeah.
we also have really good people that are also doing the best they can.
Well, and I even
We gotta be
remember,
thankful for them.
like, John Paul was sitting in a chair at one of our therapy places, and they had, of course, because they're trying to bring as much nature inside, because instead of a sterile clinical environment, bringing plants in and things, because the kids can feel the energy from the plants.
Right.
And all. So they had a plant right there, completely a good plant to absorb EMFs, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And John Paul's just sitting there, and Libby and I are talking, and the therapist is like, "No, John Paul, don't!" And she's like, and he's like, he'd ripped off a leaf, and he's looking at her, and he's like, there's just no way he can stop it.
And I said, "Oh, it's
You're like,
organic."
stop.
I'm like, "It's organic. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And
Worst
it's just
things.
been sprayed with something horrible, which it hadn't been. I'm like, just let it go. If it's organic, just let it be. But and so there's that children's book that says "No, David."
Oh, I know.
Like,
I remember we had that book. No, John Paul.
I love.
It's not too late.
I love that you guys made a really brave and kind of miraculous choice to not let any of this stuff isolate you.
Right.
Well, I would say we are isolated.
We make friends so we don't
Yes.
isolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
That's
are
important.
isolated
Community
from.
is everything.
Insulated versus
Yes,
isolated.
that's a great
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good way of putting
Yeah.
it, because autism families are so isolated, but if you can find your community, and your friends, it will.
Yes.
I like that. Insulated, yes.
Not
I mean,
isolated.
I just saw a mom post this on Instagram, and she was, showing, like, and this is the truth. I mean, things like going to parades, going to big festivals I never really wanted to do
It's
that.
difficult for our
It's very
kids.
hard, and you're going to be constantly chasing. I'm sorry, I'm this, I'm blah, 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 and you're chasing, and it's sometimes not worth the energy. And this
That's
mom
why
was
your cousin
going
would
through that.
bring her son to our birthday party.
Yeah, because you just don't want the drama necessarily, so you'd rather just stay home.
Well, and there's this.
It's really isolating. You feel really sad and depressed. And I know where this mother was going, but she said, we've created a paradise in our backyard, which is what we did. Not everyone has that. That's what kills me. Not everyone has a backyard. Not everyone can get freedom and that. So I mean, I see all of that. That's why the world needs to be kinder. If a parent, I would be out public with John Paul, and John Paul might be doing something crazy. If a parent just looked over at me and smiled and waved and said, "It's okay," like they could say, "Don't worry about it." What that did to my nervous system, it calmed it just instantly. I mean, there are so many things people can do to improve the life, and just to be a kind heart and just look at that person, you're doing wonders with
that's
that.
another question I was going to ask, so that's a good segue. Now that we know all this, I feel this really immense responsibility to share it. How do I share it without just getting the smile and nod from people?
I honestly, it is. I mean, people really need to read the book. Honestly, because they really need to understand the depth of what we are living through, these families, and they need to respond in deep, deep remorse for judging, for not caring, for being selfish, and then that should trigger empathy. And we need to learn how to love people as a society. There is no one that should exclude themselves from this process. If you're a part of society, you need to learn how to love. Everyone needs to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much. Just everyone doing a little something makes a big difference.
It requires a shift in values.
Yeah.
That's the big shift, is because we have a world that promotes the idea of being selfish. You know, the selfish, it's a selfish American, and it's all about your money, your time, so people. The reason why we're so attacked by everyone is because people don't want to be inconvenienced, right? And I think I've posted several times on Facebook about the bathrooms, right? And this is a huge issue.
Such an issue.
For families, especially when our children are older and they're adults. And like Houston's 28 and he wants to go to the men's bathroom. But if he goes in the men's bathroom and he's rocking back and forth and he like looks over at somebody, he's by himself, and then you have men in the bathroom who basically have absolutely no empathy or ability to recognize that this is someone with a disability, and clearly they don't mean to violate your personal space, that they don't have control over their own body.
We need more and more family bathrooms.
Yes.
If the world can't handle it, then we need more family bathrooms.
Yeah. And we need for grown men who want to take a break in private to not use them. Because how many times all of the autism moms, we come and there is some guy goes in there to relieve himself and take his, hour long.
They're there for a reason. Family bathrooms are there
for families.
Are you guilty?
Don't point at me like I take dumps. I don't take hour-long dumps in family bathrooms. I do it in the handicap stalls in regular bathrooms.
That's true.
But we need the world to know that is actually an infringement. It's like you taking our
the one bathroom that we can use, and you're taking
so
it
it's
away.
It's accessibility, right? And you're taking, so now you're putting us in the position of a person who doesn't have control over their body, who's literally doing the dance, just about to wet themselves, and
Katie, it's like that, it's like years ago that this still just makes me cringe. But the family, I don't know, it was a family, and they hired someone with Down syndrome to be in their family so they could get on all the rides first. It was a.
Are you kidding
What is
me?
this?
Years ago, I don't remember the exact story. Years ago,
That is awful.
there was this obnoxious. I'm sorry, whoever it was, they're obnoxious and entitled, and they hired someone to go on rides so that they could get on because at Disney So what do they ruin it for everybody?
Yeah.
And it's like the entitlement of people and just the idea.
Because it's just all about them. That's what they think.
They should be so, but they probably aren't. But it's
And
just
all these theme parks are already rolling back their disability services
Because people have abused
because
them.
of things like that. And that's a really cool parallel example to everyone's complaints about facilitated communication and RPM. Is that because a couple of times disability people have been taken advantage of, so we can't do it at all.
It's the
worst
thing
people who
ever.
are disabled have always been taken advantage of,
Yes.
Always.
and always will be until we learn to just
As
be
a
good
society to love
Yes.
everyone,
The fact that
especially those who need the most help.
Yes.
Yes.
So someone was asking me about FC the other day, and I said, FC is a very valid form. It is so valid. I said, what are the kids? It was originally, I think, for cerebral palsy,
Yeah.
where they have absolutely really no motor control, but they can push against. So when that happens, and the whole scandal, whoever of the powers that be decided, okay, we're taking it out of the schools altogether. Do you know all those kids that had been benefiting from it lost it? So it's basically taking their voice and pulling it away because of one incident, and the person wasn't trained. That's the other thing. You have to get properly trained. Yeah. And it's just that the ableism in our It's everywhere.
Well,
It's
I
called
mean,
an outlier.
It's just why
an
why
outlier.
are we cherry picking what we're gonna completely do away with because of things that went wrong?
Well, you
Because
have
then take away ABA because things went horrifically wrong there.
horrifically.
Take away, yeah.
Why
take
isn't
away-
that? Why is
Yeah,
that still
why is
there?
it? I mean, well, that's
Take away all law
You don't want to.
enforcement
You don't want to
things,
trigger
do
us
we
on
wanna
that
even
because
Yeah, that
we will
is-
go off.
I'm so
Oh
sorry.
no, I dealt with one of those guys in the comments, and it's
That's
just
the
a
thing is
total
we're a little
vibe
heated
killer.
because we
Yeah.
got
Well,
in
they're
comments.
The guy
very
doesn't want-
They're indoctrinated. And
Oh,
they don't want
he's-
it's the thing.
But he's like, oh, I've done it this way for 15 years. Well,
And
what
you've
if
been
you've
doing it
done it
wrong
wrong
for
for 15
years.
You've
years?
traumatized people for 15 years.
If I could go back in time to when I was a speech therapist in the public school, if I knew about spelling and the methods back then, oh my gosh. And so the fact that people haven't changed and haven't said, it should have changed years ago,
Yeah.
but it hasn't, and that is why I'm so glad. I'm hoping this is the time. This is the
Well,
paradigm shift.
So in
Yes.
every other industry,
tap into
you
this
have
one.
to continue. You have
Yeah.
continuing ed. You have to continue to grow. In this particular case, they planned something that they think was going to that was supposedly data driven, so it worked. The idea that you take data isn't proof that it works. It's just you're taking data.
we could talk
Because
about
you have
Yeah.
more
ABA.
information.
No,
But they
it's
actually now
made
have
up
data that it doesn't work.
It's just made up data.
Yes.
It means
Yes.
nothing.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Well-
it doesn't mean.
Well, John
anything.
Paul has inspired me just from my observing and research I've seen. I think people that have badges and abbreviations, like I'm part of the ABC and I have a badge with the QRS and the. I think it gives you like an ego, like false
Yes.
ego, you know.
Well,
Definitely
people
a shocker.
people actually
Yeah.
respect
Or
it.
certifications also. That's a
Well,
big one.
it's
I have a
this-
certificate in
Well, and it's this idea that
ABCs.
this really, it's not just entitlement, but it's this arrogance that I went to school, I know more than you. In reality, the people that actually
Live it.
Yeah.
live it are the
He-
ones that
He
know.
straight up said that to me in
Yeah.
the comments. Yeah.
And
That's the problem.
I went to
is
school
that
for this. You went to school when they were calling people cripples,
yeah.
and that's correct.
Here's the thing: is I was a speech therapist going into homes. Okay, so I started in the school system, and then I worked in clinics, and then I started my own practice going into houses. I was in people's homes. I was a speech therapist for 7 years before I had John Paul. And then John Paul really, he didn't start regressing. And so I was still working at the time and everything. I still didn't understand autism until I had John Paul. And I was living it 24/7. And I was surrounded with autism. And I still didn't understand really how it affects every part of your life until I was 24/7. And so when I listen to like a therapist, especially someone who, you can learn from everyone. And I learned about RPM from a young therapist, and I am so grateful. So I can learn from anybody. But if you're trying to tell me you understand and you don't live this, you don't really understand. You can help me, but also you need to listen to the parent, because the parent really knows. And I laugh at parents gave me a lot of grace, because the things I said to them sometimes, I'm sure when the door was closed, they were like, she's a fool. But we love her, so we're going to let her keep coming back because she loves our child,
Nice.
But I look at things that therapists say, and I'm like, and then especially people who are against spelling and against this, they've never been to a spelling conference.
Yeah.
They've never seen it. How dare you have an opinion?
Well, and it all is based on
It's
this. I
unbelievable.
want to give. This is why it's wrong. I'm just going to go ahead and go through it very quickly so people understand why ABA is totally and completely, utterly wrong on every single level. First of all of this came about, the IQ tests and everything came about as a direct response to social Darwinism. This idea that you could naturally select. So these social scientists came out in the 20s and said,
did ABA start out as conversion therapy?
it did.
Yes.
It did.
The devil.
It
The
did.
devil.
Yes.
It was conversion
Yes.
therapy.
So what they did
to
was,
cure
that's all of this is a,
homosexuality. That's what it was originally.
yeah.
Think about that.
So, so it starts with the 20s. These social scientists come in and they, of course, feel that there are some people that are superior to other people, and we are going to identify who we think is more valuable than others, and we're going to develop these tests to identify, then we're going to isolate, then we're going to either sterilize or euthanize. Welcome to the 20s, 30s, and then you have...
And let me do a timeout parentheses there. That's why the Nephilim does their Luciferian rituals, is because they think they're superior to us,
That's quite a
so that they
parenthesis.
can do that.
I did
Anyway,
not know any of that.
That's just
Thank
a
you
little
for
bit
that.
AT dubs for my
There we go.
for my
So-
one person in the comments of YouTube, now continue.
Well, so this is actually what led to, the first experiment in the final solution, where they took people that were disabled in Germany and they were euthanizing them with gas chambers. This is actually where it came from. It came from this. Well, but the United States was sterilizing them. They were identifying and sterilizing the undesirables.
Well,
so that
guess
they wouldn't
where these
procreate.
scientists moved from?
Well, okay, so then, so we have World War II. Okay, well that's a horrible idea. That's wrong. We've decided that's wrong, and the educational system goes, well, I kind of like it. We're gonna like this. In fact, we're gonna apply this in schools.
Yeah.
Now enter. So you have this whole, we have Watson, who's the father of behaviorism, and he basically had this whole idea. By the way, he burned all of his work, his life's work, near the end of his life because he realized it was so horrible, and he ruined all of his children using these.
Now we have
methods.
censorship.
So,
Book
so
burning.
then, but he had trained. Of course, they'd gone into the universities, and the universities love this because we're classifying, we're labeling, we're feeling we're better than other people. Yes, and so then that comes along, and because they were trying to use it as conversion. We're going to take it and use behavior to control people and to make them the way that we think that they should be.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it's about. So then he is training people. From this comes B.F. Skinner, who is basically like, this is where the whole how is language acquired, and they're like, you can only acquire language by being taught it piece by piece by piece, but none of us.
No, it's by hearing.
Yeah, it's by hearing. We're all everything.
How do toddlers learn to? I mean, it's a natural learning to talk and communicate is a natural progression.
You hear it, you mimic it, you're in it.
Yes, it's a natural
Noam
progression.
Chomsky, of course, does the most famous rebuttal against Skinner's work, and this is where this whole debate begins. Was back in 1950. It was in the 50, I think it was 58, but it was in the 50s. Okay, so that starts them. The school systems, even though there's this complete this is wrong from the beginning, they still take it into the school systems and they start training people. Lovaas comes from Skinner. He's a student of Skinner's, and he goes and identifies some autistics that he's going to cure, and he starts this ABA method. Of course, he didn't use anyone that wasn't a non-speaker, and they use electrical rods to prod people and use
imagine?
Yeah, so essentially they learned to respond appropriately according to social norms.
The anxiety
So they
that
were
must have been
cured.
induced in that is
No,
just,
it's a
I mean,
nightmare.
Is this
so much
back
fun.
during
nightmare.
segregation
No, this
and
is actually-
women barely getting
Honestly,
to vote
y'all,
for 30
this is,
years?
You're gonna be terrible. This is actually early 80s is when this was going
and
on.
it probably started off on just white boys at first. Yes.
And so then you have, so no one could ever recreate his study, but they loved it. It was called discrete trial, the Lovaas method. And so no one could ever recreate it, but this is what birthed the ABA industry, which is now, $60+ billion a year.
A year?
A year.
A
It's
year.
insane.
Oh
They
yeah.
so
pump out
60
RBG.
billion
They can bill
a
a ton
year?
to insurance.
40
Yes.
hours a week. Now, they can bill insurance companies for it. The reason one of the main reasons our insurance is so expensive is
Yes.
because of this industry. Now,
Yes.
they keep taking data and they're like, we're scientific because we're taking data. I encourage everyone to watch the interview with Dr. Elizabeth Torres and David Kaufman. Is it Koffer or Kaufman? Which one is it?
Coffer.
Coffer. Get
Mark-
David
is it
Coffer.
Mark- Is it David?
David.
David Coffer. I think
And
it's
with
Coffer.
Dr. Elizabeth Torres, it is exceptional. And she goes through and
Everybody should watch that.
Yeah.
she goes through and
Dr.
basically
Elizabeth Joyce.
destroys ABA
Here's the thing. I remember.
scientifically.
Now, I will
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that because everyone gets all upset, but I love my ABA therapist. I love my therapist. I
Oh
love
yeah,
those.
yeah.
People do, but here's
I
the
was gonna-
thing is that I had exceptional therapists too that would have been amazing regardless of what they did. They were they just got it, and they didn't necessarily follow what they had been taught.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of people who shouldn't be working with a very difficult population who are just it's almost like all common sense goes out the window, and they're doing these things but without a purpose. I mean, it doesn't translate. It
Yes.
does not translate into regular life. And it's like it doesn't. It's like John Paul, touch your nose, and in order to master it, you got to touch it 8 out of 10 times. So he touches his nose 7 times. 7 times. On the 8th time, he mishits because he's a praxic, and they go back again and start because he's got to master it. The fact that he touched it, okay, I mean, he obviously
that he
submitted the ABA
had a success
therapist.
rate.
One of his therapists one time, this is in the very beginning, and I was thinking, this is not good. I said, do you know what apraxia is? From a speech therapy, he said, no clue, never heard the word before. So the person doesn't even realize what the problem is. And she said, if he wanted to talk, he would talk.
Because they think
And I'm
everything is
going,
behavior.
and that's why I'm like, we gotta go,
Yes, so
you gotta
bizarre.
go, you gotta go.
They-
Because talking is natural. Nobody doesn't want to be able to talk.
Yeah.
It is not a behavior in the sense of what they're calling it negative behavior. It's not. It is a motor planning problem.
Well, these behaviorists, they think that everything is motor, or I mean, they think that everything is behavior, and they don't realize that speech is 100% motor.
100%. That's the first
Every-
thing you learn at any conference for apraxia. Speech is motor.
These people that are performing these just inhumane practices on these neurologically disabled children, not intellectually disabled, neurologically disabled, meaning the
Neurologically, yeah.
wiring is wrong.
Yeah.
They are literally, or not, I shouldn't say wrong, but just very
Inaccurate.
complicated
Yeah.
The issue now is though, because it's such a
business.
business that nobody
Yes.
wants their pocketbook changed. They don't want to lose their
Yes.
source of income, and people know this, and yet they're still okay keeping this whole group silent because it does and that's the whole meaning.
Well, then now they have this.
Well, the school
now they have this
systems, too.
secondary. I feel like ASHA and like that type of speech language or occupational therapy has almost become when I feel like it's kind of branching. There's these autism centers that serve ABA and that, and they pair together, and it's almost like this secondary industry.
Well, they're
I
in
know.
bed with each other.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
They're all like
They're all-
they're all
yes.
feeding each
Yes.
other, and it's like
The
one
school
point-
systems they are so terrified of admitting that they're wrong
Yeah.
and having to change and having a population that is going to be expensive to educate because they require so much one-on-one that they are just refusing to acknowledge that they're wrong.
Well,
that is
here's-
insane.
And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to
Yeah.
trying to minimize the lived experience of anyone who has had success and positive change from ABA therapy. And I think a lot of the community and the industry now that are pro ABA, they acknowledge that it came from these like
roots.
toxic roots, these toxic backgrounds, and that there's reforms and improvements.
I keep hearing
And I'm
that
like, okay,
too.
cool, fine. Why can't facilitated communication have this? be allowed
Hasn't
the same
conversion
Why
therapy
don't
improved?
They, in ABA, why don't they require every person who does ABA to learn a spelling method? Why? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
They should.
Why can't all forms should be valid?
Why
Yeah.
don't they have to actually learn the neurology so that they figure out that
They're
it's
missing
not
a
behavior?
whole course that needs to be included. But see, you can be an RBT in like weeks. I mean, it's like you need a GED.
You need a
certain
master's to
amount
be an
of-
occupational
Right.
therapist.
I mean, it's so.
I
And
just
the
don't
thing
get why
is,
this one way gets a pass over and over again,
Well,
but no other ways.
I always say with our kids, you have to be that much better to work with our kids. You've got to you've got to really be good to work with our kids. And the only way to get good is to work with kids and get experience, but you got to have an open mind, and you have to, I mean, if you think that behavior is, if you're thinking these kids as a negative in behavior, and that's what you've been taught, because they're indoctrinated into this.
Yes.
So then you're going to come at it already annoyed. Oh, this kid needs a good, and so you're already coming at it.
A good
from a
beating
negative
with the
place.
ruler,
Well,
like
it's
the old
you're
school.
coming at it. Well, John
It's
Paul
all
was
about
shot in
the carrot
face
and the
with water.
stick.
At one
Oh,
place, he
wow.
was shot in the face with water. Every time they gave him a squirt of water in the face like a dog.
They would hold stop signs up
What?
to Houston.
Yeah, and
This is what,
Could you imagine if your child? Could you imagine if your son was being taught and the teacher shot him in the face? What would you do? I want to say to the
Already
people
pulling out
doing it,
first things.
to the people
Wasting that.
doing it, what would you do if it happened to your child?
Yeah.
Would you be okay
I'm
with
sick to
that?
my stomach just thinking
I
about
mean,
it.
seriously.
Yeah.
it
Well,
makes
that's the
me
sad
sick.
thing. They would.
Because John
They're
Paul,
probably
at
in a
that
place where they would do that to their own child.
I don't know that they
I don't
would
know. No,
because
no.
it's about competence. They think that these
Yeah.
individuals, and they're still trying to make them, and it's not even about teaching them anything that will actually help them in life. It's about, you need to do this 8 out of 10 times so I can
You
move
need
on
to
to
be
the
able to walk in a
next.
straight line
Yeah.
and not deviate, because that's the way
That's the
school
social
system
norm.
makes you do it. You cannot walk out of line. You got to do it this way or no way. And it's just that really the schools work for one type of kid. Really, they work for one kind of kid, or else other kids that mask all day. And and the thing is about ABA is that there is the argument that, like, working on motor planning tasks they do over and over. Okay, but you're training motor planning. That's what spelling is. You're coaching motor planning.
Except
You're
that
doing-
with spelling, you're getting them access to language.
Right.
With 26 unique motor plannings, you're giving them the ability to communicate.
The thing
Yeah.
is, or like one parent might say, well, ABA worked great for my child, but their child might have been an ASD 1 or 2 kid, and maybe their motor planning, and it did work better for them because they were able to control their body. So that's the thing. But for our kids,
Well,
it is poison and torture
okay,
for our kids.
Yeah.
United Health Group and the Department of Defense both took all of the data from ABA because they're having to pay for it, right? And they came out, both of them independently of each other, said, we do not want to cover these services anymore because we have the evidence, the data that shows they don't work. Who were these targeted for? It was the 40 hours a week. It was the severe non-speaking global apraxia. ABA behavior does not fix motor planning.
And what's
That's
terrible,
the bottom line.
What's terrible is for most families in most parts of the country, especially when they have a very moderate, like low income insurance,
That's all they have.
ABA is all they have.
That is all they
You
have.
get denied that. That was their child care.
can't.
That was their education.
That is the problem. Is
Yeah.
my friend who's a pediatrician, she
Yeah.
said, Libby, all I can do is write a prescription for 40 hours of ABA. I said, then honey, you have to do it because that family needs a break. They have to have a break. And maybe the because again, there are therapists that are just gifted therapists that would go beyond what ABA says, and they can help your child because they're just got that gift. And there are plenty of therapists that just have the gift. They may be under the ABA, but they go beyond that. And there are plenty of those out there. But if the actual ABA, the way it is supposed to be carried out, the way it does not help our kids.
We do not have a
Does not
problem
help
with
our
the
kids.
people. We have a problem with the method.
The people can be fabulous. It's the method that's flawed.
Well, their
And it is
hands are
flawed.
tied. They're in a situation where they're experiencing it every day, and they're seeing, oh, well, I can't.
Well, their
Okay, I can
paycheck
help
is
this
dependent
way.
on them producing
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
That too.
So
Well,
see,
no,
it's-
they'll fire you.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, you're not abiding by
You're not
guidelines."
acquiring the data. Where's the
But how
data?
does it get changed? That's the thing. So we complain about it and everything, but what has to happen to make
I have
it
the answer.
fix it?
She
Because
always
we
says-
need to fix it.
I do.
It's like,
I have the answer.
Yes.
It's very simple. I am so sorry for everyone who is currently in this industry, but this industry needs to go away. It truly does. And we need to appeal to insurance reform. That's what first thing that needs to happen. And we need to take away the 40 hours of insurance paid for ABA and ask insurance companies to instead provide 25 hours a week of trained occupational therapy where they're working on motor planning,
Sensory
where they're doing
integration.
sensory integration, where they're
That's
doing
interesting.
vision
Purposeful
therapy,
motor.
purposeful motor. And there are incredible therapies that address the sensory, that address the visual issues, that address the vestibular and proprioceptive system. Is anyone doing this ABA stuff have any idea even what a vestibular or proprioceptive system is and how vision affects that or how hearing affects that?
No.
None.
And so that's actually really brilliant.
It's
Katie.
less expensive.
You want to bring that education to the insurance companies themselves.
Yes.
So they know.
And then of course
I
you'd
think
have to
that's
do
really clever.
legally. Of course we have to change the laws
Well,
as well.
I do a lot of when someone will mention a nonprofit or an institute that they've worked with or blah, blah, blah. I go to that website. I go to their leadership. I look at who's on the board of education and what their backgrounds were. It's always like healthcare finance, insurance company, but insurance billing. Like the board of these places are those insurance companies.
Yes. Well, and they would
like
see
the May
this.
Institute, for example.
Oh well, don't. I
Well,
have a
no,
lot of bad things to say
here
about
we
the
go
Institute.
again.
Okay.
It goes back to Luciferian
ABA.
practices.
Well, yes, and so but
That's
their
what-
entire board
Yeah.
is healthcare finance.
Oh well, yeah.
But why is the serpent around?
Oh
The
well, okay.
healthcare.
Actually, I
why
want to
is
talk.
the serpent wrapped
That's-
around their logo?
Okay, and people don't like that. Is
She's
essentially.
got a cool story about this. She told me this already.
Okay,
I,
so
yeah,
there are.
I know what they're gonna say, but I know what it really is.
Right.
Little segue,
Go ahead.
listen.
Sorry.
I mean, there's essentially the Greek. I think it's the Greek one
There's
where
a
it's-
Greek story.
Yes, where it's basically these Greek gods are the cure. They're the healers, and that's who this medical community has.
Nephilim.
Right. I don't know if it's Nephilim, but
This is just my
saying
opinion.
It's
My
This is
just,
just my
But
opinion.
but it comes from this mythological story. Okay, and then of course, what's so interesting though is in Numbers. I think it's 21. There's the story.
The
where-
Nephilim one is 69. The human women.
Michael.
Sorry.
She's talking about the Book of Numbers.
I'm talking about numbers. Go on. Sorry.
Okay. So but in Numbers 21, it's where Moses, is told by God to go and make this the iron, the bronze iron, and then with the snake and the whole, and to raise it up, and anyone who looks at the cross, will be saved, and and that's exactly what happens. So, and there's several different stories in the Book of Numbers about these types of things, and the whole point is, that Christ is the healer, that He is the healer, and anyone who looks to Him will be saved. That is the whole point of those stories. So, I'm not reading because it will take too much time and it'll take me forever to find it.
Do you think
No, it's okay.
I mean, sometimes I wonder if, ABA would almost have to have its name changed from applied behavior analysis, because behavior is a bad word to have in it.
It is.
And it was almost like, why can't, since it's already established, why can't we do it with the name, change the whole protocol, have them learn spelling, have them maybe learn DIR floor time, which is a way better way of, see, DIR floor time, when I was, at one point, ABA and DIR floor time were battling. DIR floor time is what we started with. The only reason I ever did ABA is because I had a parent talk me into it, and I did it, and we had one therapist at the very beginning who was actually amazing. I didn't know enough then, but she was just a great therapist, and there are out there, regardless of what they're doing, they just get it. We had a lot of those, so we were pretty blessed with that, and I got rid of the ones that I thought were going to try to torture my child, into things, just ridiculous ideas, and that were going to give him great discomfort, and not really fix the issue. But I mean, it's just ABA is so established that why can't the powers that be just say, hey, we're wrong, fix it, and then continue?
Well,
I don't know. It just seems to me that would be easier, but we have to. Then everyone has to admit we're wrong. We have to change it. We have to. We have to change an entire mindset.
Yeah, I personally don't really even care who continues to get the money. Just let's
make the therapy work. Make it work. Make it better for our kids and kinder. And
Well, it has to
not
begin
so
with presuming
intimidating.
competence.
You have to. That's the one thing. Starting with presumed competence. Learn a spelling method. Presume competence. Understand what apraxia and sensory integration are, and then how the snowball effect of anxiety and OCD and ADHD, that all plays into it too.
Yes.
I mean, all of that is, and each kid, I almost felt like, I always thought of kids I worked with as almost like switchboards. Like John Paul had this, and this. And so I knew the protocol to address that. Whereas like a Houston may have this, and this. Where essentially it's all motor planning, but each one has their own significant problem. Like Thomas used to say, John Paul's twin would say, why can't John Paul be more like Houston? Because John Paul was hard to take places because he was so loud, whereas Houston doesn't do that. He doesn't do the verbal stem. I mean, it's just like they all have different things that are problematic, but you know, it all comes from the same problem. But
I think you're answering your own question right there. I think that's the problem, unfortunately. ABA is such an easier, just like
everybody
everybody gets the same way and it's treated the same
and
thing.
you cannot do that.
they're trying to and again, but that is the basis, is that
They're
it's from
trying
this
to
whole
make them normal.
yes,
That's
the whole
thing.
normal.
We are
It's the
going to
norms.
say you can be normal. I mean, I've tried to be normal. I can't be normal myself. You know, I can't be normal.
But why
But
can't
you
we be?
cannot
Why can't we
norm.
be unique?
John
why can't
Paul wrote
be
a
who
very-
we are?
Yes.
John Paul, I don't have it memorized, but John Paul wrote this really. It actually broke my heart. He wrote
The
a poem
Norming
called
Me.
"Norming Me."
You've got to remember
And
it. You've got to
I can't
remember it.
remember it off the top of my head, but I don't know. I'm working on a book. I'll probably put it in that. But
So
Good. I was gonna ask if you were working on a book.
I am. It's I am. I'm trying to be disciplined, and John Paul and I started a book together, and then so I can kind of go from there. Katie, I one time showed Katie all my chapters. She's like, "That's perfect!" Like I had all these chapters. She's like, "That's how you organize your book."
Oh
And different chapters that just things that were just I wanted to talk about. But anyway, but he wrote this poem called "Norming Me," and it is heartbreaking about trying to make him normal, you know, and it just, you know, I mean, I think of our own story, and I protected John Paul as best I could, but there's a lot of parents who don't know their kids need protecting, and they're sending them out into a day of hell.
Well,
And
they're
it kills them
given
because they don't have a choice.
The parents are
They
given
don't have a choice.
Yeah, they're given no choice. They're not even given the time to really sit there and assess what's best for their child.
They can't, because honestly, it is so
Because
hard.
they have to work.
I
They're
was
working
so
full-time.
desperate at one time, like just for a break. I was so desperate, and I remember, you know, we had to have a lot of family help to pay for stuff because it's the money is it's crazy how expensive things are. And I remember my dad saying to me, "Honey, what do people do who don't have any financial backing from, or like a family?" I go, "Dad, they suffer.
yeah,
They
that's
suffer."
exactly what you
I
call
said
it.
that, and I worry about
Those
these
are the
people
statistics that
all the time.
die early, unfortunately.
Yes.
They get put in homes.
Yep.
The parents-
There's a lot of divorce.
The parents
parents
they
are-
suffer. I said it's just the suffering that I know exists.
The
kills
trauma
me.
of the parents is
Yeah.
unreal. You know, I was
There's no way to explain it. You have to live it. There's
There-
no way to explain
you know,
it.
back to, remember we were talking about the bathroom, and this isn't even necessary. I'm just going to tell the story without sharing names. But there was a mom who she pulls up to this grocery store, and she realizes her son has got to go, and it's an emergency. And the problem is because they're so disconnected from their bodies, it's a lot of times difficult for them to communicate in any kind of, you don't get the clue, the cue soon enough. So you're in always this crisis
'Cause
state.
they don't even have the interoception.
That's exactly right. They don't have the and thank you
Interoception.
but that's exactly what it is. It's the knowing where. And because I remember I did this one thing with Houston one time, and he said, "I can finally feel where my stomach is," and I was like, "Oh my word!" Like, not to even be able to have a sense of where your internal organs are.
Yeah.
But that's what interoception is for everybody who's listening.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know about it because I had that up until I was 11, 12, 13 years old, I would wet my pants.
Yeah,
So,
because it's that lack of awareness of where your internal organs are and the pressures, and those send the signals to then let you know. Then you have to motor plan to execute.
John Paul would wet the bed. I mean, up until the last, it would happen.
Yeah,
all the time.
it's because they can't feel it.
He was either that for sure, or having a seizure.
Or it's
that
seizure.
I didn't know he'd had a seizure, because it might have been while he was, it could have been either or.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she pulls up into like right next to this woman, this entitled woman pulls up next to her, and she's like, "You're not allowed to park there." And where they were doing construction in the grocery store, so they had like outdoor bathrooms, and so the mom was like, "I can't." Anyway,
there's always that person
the woman
ruins it, that makes it so
the
hard.
woman wouldn't move so
God.
she could open her door to get her son out.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding you.
That's the worst of the worst. That
so
you
her
ever-
son, meanwhile,
pee on the car.
well, it's. I mean, and it was, of course, it was number 2, so it was a big, so it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she,
cover
of
that
course,
car.
Of course, he ends up having this huge mess, and she, of course, is furious, and she's screaming and very angry at this selfish, entitled woman.
That's awful.
Who's just who are these people that want to police everybody?
I know, the Karens of the world.
Yes,
I suppose.
well, gosh, and it's just
They're so unhappy.
this woman then goes she's
Who cares
literally
that much to bother other people trying to survive?
But these are the kinds of stories that these families with these adult non-speakers with severe apraxia and seizures, and who
They have
are
no
literally
clue.
their faces are just they have bruises and everything else from falling and hit. I mean, we had like John Paul would get
John
cut his
Paul had at one point.
he
He used to, when he was younger. He had
stitches everywhere.
He'd fall. We had terrible accidents and problems and bruises, and at one point he picked on his skin when he was younger, and luckily we broke that loop. But
But this woman then, after this, of course, gets down the license, has the police sent to this mother's house. While the police come, while she's literally hosing down her son's clothes in the backyard. And this is what these parents are living with. They're living in a world that doesn't want them, that the world is not just doesn't want them, but is taking the initiative to make their lives more difficult.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
actually
seriously,
worse.
I do always say, again, autism is not the problem. It's
Society.
that's the problem, and not understanding, but then not even trying to understand. Like, so just little teeny, like I call them microaggressions of people that just constantly do things that hurt, and then they wonder why you explode after.
Oh, we're not
maybe a
allowed to have
small
emotions.
thing. Yeah.
We're supposed to basically work 24/7, sleep deprived, have injustice after injustice, no resources, everyone against us, and we are never allowed to have an emotion about it. We're supposed to also stay completely calm. We're never allowed to get angry or hurt or feel violated or have express our sense of great injustice that the world is wrong, won't admit it, and doesn't care.
Well, that's really what it is. If it's not my problem, then it's not. Like people have that attitude. Well, just thank God it's not my
Or then
problem.
even the ones that are, I don't know. There's just this whole other subset of the community that think they understand and that they're advocates, but only their way, and they can't even fathom or comprehend that maybe that's incorrect. I get it all the time in the online space on TikTok. Like, I'll be talking about Houston's eloping, and then someone's just like, that is a behavior. That's a behavior you can stop. Like, they only elope.
No,
when
they
they're
can't
They only
actually.
elope when they're dysregulated.
No.
Blah blah blah. It's like
No.
you
John
don't know
Paul
what
would
that-
elope.
You don't know what you're saying at all.
No, they don't. John Paul would elope, and eloping is so terrifying, and the judgment of eloping is
You're not doing a good job.
beyond. It's so, and the parent lives in a constant state of I was always luckily we had a gate. I could close our gate, but the fear of it. I remember I came home one night and everyone's sitting around the table and it's very quiet. very quiet, and all of a sudden I hear these alarms and sirens, and I said, "Is that for us?" And they both everyone's kind of like, "Yes," because John Paul had gotten out and just had walked. He had gone out. He was naked and he was walking down the road. And someone called and said, "There's a naked man walking down." You know, the fear of him being shot or somebody thinking he's this pervert or something, and he was just walking down the road. And the police, you know, were so kind. We were so lucky that the police, they were always very kind to us. I was just lucky that way. Like, I did not have a bad experience.
Yeah, that is not always.
They actually, no, it's not, and that is a whole nother thing. But they were usually so relieved to see me.
Yeah.
Like one time when he did it, they said, "We're just so relieved because we don't know what the hell to do with him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we don't know what to do with him." And they were just like, and even like at
which
the hospital.
Which is another failing that
Which is-
police don't know what to do.
They don't.
And you know,
And there's some horrible stories
There
from
are some
police
really bad
doing the wrong
stories,
thing.
and I'm always worried about that. But the police, you know, and so they just came out to check on, you know, and then one woman, John Paul, got out one time, and the thing is, they're elusive. Like John Paul, he could be quiet and someone said, "Well, that's behavior," and I mean, who knows? Maybe that time it was I don't know, but normally, you know, John Paul he might have had his own plan. I don't know. Some kids just take off. John Paul, when he was younger, would just take off.
Yeah.
He could be older.
Well, and
maybe he had
I've
more of a
heard
plan when he
the
got older.
non-speakers
I don't
say
know.
multiple
I'll never
things. Like one, like Michaela, in Michaela's voice, she says that it's my. I can't remember if it was like my body or my spirit, but like essentially one of them is trying to catch the other one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like it's essentially
wow,
like
that's
the
neat.
spirit's leaving.
Yeah.
Hi, Houston. We're talking about eloping.
Oh, he's an
He's
expert.
back down
He's
for
back.
that.
He's like, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I know all about
You know,
eloping.
in Kentucky, we have a new alert called the Ian Alert, and it's specifically for autistics or other people who struggle with eloping.
Real quick, for the world, if there is an elopement, immediately go to every single near body of water. That is the very first place you
That's
go.
what this-
Immediately
That's
go
what
to
this
the
alert
water.
says, to maybe look at water.
Immediately. Like,
John Paul would seek the water always. That's
Yeah.
how
and
he
it's
loved
because
the
in
water.
Houston, and we've talked about that on.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the podcast about the water.
Yes, a little bit, but I
So-
would love to get more into it.
Okay,
we need
so-
like an entire water episode.
We do need an entire water episode, but basically they can feel their bodies in the water, the vestibular system. But again, back with what we were saying about about the water. The water's spiritual. The water has memory. Like they can sense God in the water. But the problem is they don't have the motor planning to keep themselves afloat in the water.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
That's hard.
So here they are spiritually and physically seeking something good, but then unable to keep
When
themselves.
they're little. John Paul was a frog. I mean, John Paul could float and hang
He
in the water.
was.
He was a natural in the water. He could. So like at the time when he was in Hilton Head, and that's a whole other thing. But he swam in the Hilton Head in the middle of the night for hours.
The ocean.
Well, in the ocean.
Wow.
That's when he ran away, and in the middle of the
That
night
was
rode
in
his
telepathy
bike.
tapes, right?
Yeah, and people would say, you know, well, why weren't the doors locked? They were locked. They were locked very well.
Yeah.
Why why were you sleeping? Well, because I've been up with
It's
him till
nighttime.
3:30 in the morning, and I thought I got him to sleep.
Yeah.
But John Paul was intentional when he got up and went to the ocean. He had a plan. Whether or not you want to call it behavior, I wouldn't call it behavior. He wanted freedom, and he wrote a poem about it. He just wanted to go to the ocean. It was everything. My friend woke me up, and she said, you know, she came in.
We're probably
We're
almost
almost done.
Yeah, we're working on it.
She said, Libby, we were at the beach with them, and she said, the back door's open. He's not in the pool, and the trike is gone. And it was about 4 in the morning. So he must have snuck out sometime between 3. I had fallen back asleep, thinking he was back asleep, and it has a happy ending. Thank God.
That's good.
It's a happy ending that we found him in the ocean, and he was having the time of his life. That's not normally what happens. I always say that wasn't his time to depart this world. I always say he still had more to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that was not the time for him to go. And he
Yeah.
was protected. When Katie first
Yeah.
met me, she said, "You know, he was surrounded by angels." And I said, "Oh, I know." And I was like,
So
"I think we're gonna be
beautiful.
friends." That was the first time I met Katie, and
It's
she
so-
was like, "Oh my God, you're
Aw.
Libby?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh my gosh, I know your whole story." And then she's like, "He was surrounded by angels." And I
So-
said, "Oh, I feel like I got chill bumps even thinking about it." So
So
John
the
Paul's verifying.
So the reason, so Libby and I met because that whole thing happened,
Yeah.
and a friend of hers posted the story.
She
in
wrote a
Facebook.
wonderful
Yeah.
blurb about it because a friend, the news people called to find out about it, and I called my friend. I said, "Oh my God, they're gonna. I'm the negligent mother now. They don't even get it." And my friend Jennifer Watson, she goes, "Don't worry about it. I got it." Puts the phone down, and she writes this perfect, wonderful thing about what happened. She's a great writer. So go ahead. Sorry.
So she posted in Facebook, and then my friend, who of course has known me since Houston was 18 months, she sees it and sends it to me, and I read it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because, and especially with the ocean and everything, Houston ran away. We took this one trip. One of Houston's therapists was getting married, and she invited us to the wedding, and so it was a very big deal, and we're like, we're going to do this. This is a big trip. We drove all the way from Atlanta to Massachusetts, we went to the wedding. Of course, Houston peed all over the church floor. I mean, it was just like,
One of those things.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was disaster after disaster.
Sounds like a great party.
It was an epic family vacation.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
we could have actually done a whole movie just on that one
Oh, yeah.
vacation.
I wish peeing in a church was the worst thing that happened there, but it's just not.
Yes.
So anyway, then we go to Martha's Vineyard because we're like, wow, we're all the way up here. We're going to try and do something amazing that we would never do. And I was taking a shower. His dad was supposed to be watching him, and he didn't. And he thought he was on one floor. He was not. And he ran away, and we had no idea where he was. And we're on with Martha's Vineyard, and it's like, and the ocean is
Katie. How old was he?
He
So
was
terrifying.
about 8 or 9. I think.
Oh,
Wow.
God, the fear.
Wow.
The fear.
It was so
Where did
Yeah.
where was
bad.
he found?
I think it was actually, I want to say maybe even
Yeah.
Josh or let's see. I think he was actually only 7.
Okay.
Katie, where was he
Okay.
found?
This is the crazy part. For sure, we thought he was in the ocean, and in the ocean was so ridiculously
Oh, yeah.
rough, and I knew I was literally I couldn't even, like, 'cause I'm just running all over, and all these people, strangers, we don't even have friends that we can like call, like the police are, everyone's looking for him, and I just keep looking at the ocean, and I'm like, if it's gonna eat him, like there's no way he can survive that.
Yeah.
I can't even explain the emotional feeling in my body. It was terror. That would be the closest emotion.
Oh, I
feel.
know. I know that feeling.
And I was running everywhere, just like and also everyone, because they don't have ACs up there, everyone just has their doors open, and so I knew he could be in any house, he could be in any
goodness.
condo,
And
he
he's
could
not
be
going to answer you.
no, and so no clue where he could be. The police were had just put in the order to get the helicopters to go look out everywhere, and they got a call. And this was the crazy part, was they had found a little boy naked, of course.
Of course. Little angel, a little cherub.
He was wearing a t-shirt, but no
Oh,
pants.
bless him.
Yeah.
And he had a handful of pretzels, also
Yeah.
not surprising. And what he had seen was, he was literally, I don't know how, at least a mile across an open field. He had seen a tent that looked like a circus tent, and of course he was obsessed with circuses.
Aw.
And so he thought he was going to go and find,
Yeah.
clowns in Dumbo or something, and it was a cow exhibit.
Okay.
And someone,
Interesting.
some kind soul.
Someone saw
Thank
this
God.
child and
Thank
called
God.
the police.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
And people don't. And then the very next day, we tried, because we were still trying to recover this vacation.
Yeah.
We went to the beach. Houston sprinted off down the shore.
Ugh.
And after we caught him, we literally got in the car and drove back to Atlanta, and that was that.
Yeah.
It was just
that we went home the very next
Yeah.
day. We didn't stay another day at the beach.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's gonna
Yeah.
try it again.
Yeah.
He will definitely do it again. It
Yeah.
worked the first time.
And then
he'll
you-
keep
and
going.
then-
And you don't know
then
the
on-
geography.
And then, so you're already experiencing all that, and then you have to experience the judgment. Like,
well, and
The
then
one of the siblings
and
have
the
to go
siblings
home,
have to
and then
lose
they're
out.
disappointed. It's a whole
and the
thing.
family.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, and then you know, spouses tend to get very angry, and they don't necessarily process all of the disappointment and trauma well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
that
that's a
happens.
whole nother layer.
It's just it's you know it's there's so many parts to it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many parts to it. I think that if everyone could just be kind to each other and just love, like John Paul always said, the only thing that matters is love. He said love is he just said, like, make your whole life about love. If everybody just took the time to be more loving, everything would go better. It's such a simple
that.
message. It's so simple.
Well, it
Because-
requires you not putting yourself first.
Yes.
Yeah.
It requires sensitivity in difficult moments to trying to imagine what other people are going through and feeling, and then adjusting your expectations based on simply compassion for the
Yes.
others.
And it requires being aware that you might be wrong, that you don't know what
Yeah.
you don't know.
You have to swallow your
It's
pride.
like it's totally understandable that you don't know. Like when the first Ian alert came out in Kentucky, everybody in the Facebook neighborhood groups were like, "Why did we get this? What is this about?" And then they were like, "Well, why would they let them run off?" And all
Oh
these
my
things.
word.
And it's like, okay, cool. I get that I understand where that's coming from, but how about you don't know what you don't know, and so just be loving.
If it wasn't a problem,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been put out.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and the more and more we have social media, the more people can
Yes.
talk about it. But then you have to be willing to accept the information, and you have to be willing to understand. And instead of going to the place of judgment, say, you know what? I mean, we're all human beings. It's just is what it is.
And I just want to say this. I really do ask for people to just read our story, because I go
Yes.
through in detail what it is like on a daily, year by year, hour by hour, minute by minute basis to be living in a constant state of hypervigilance in an extreme sensory environment with extreme trauma and loss,
Yeah.
and what that actually does to people physically and emotionally, and how their lives are affected. And I do that with such detail because I am trying to trigger empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is my intent, is
Yeah.
to trigger people going, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I want to be a better person and love people who are suffering so much.
Yeah.
That's really what I want.
That's what happened to me. And like this is a good point to go back to, because I asked you earlier, what can people do? And like you want them to read the book, which is like that's why that happened to me, is because I read your book. So beyond, like I really think like listeners out there who have listened to the Telepathy tapes, who have read this book, buy another copy and give it to someone.
Yeah.
I'm really not saying that to promote. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't, sometimes just telling them isn't going to do it. We ran into a mother the other day of a 4-year-old nonverbal autistic person, and I told her all about Katie's book, all about the Telepathy tapes, all about you guys, and she was just blank faced. She was tired. She was stressed.
Four is a
We
was
were
a
like a
hard
couple of
time.
weird, we were a couple of weird, like hippie white couple just yapping at her in the middle of a library, and she wasn't listening, and she was like, okay, and walked off. I want to keep 5 or 6 copies in my car to just hand to people.
I'll give you a box.
Heidi, can I tell you something though? I will say this, that at 4 was a very, 4 4 was a rough
Yeah.
time, but people did try to tell me about spelling. I had people giving me sheets of paper, but I was not ready to receive it until John Paul was 8, and it almost smacked me in the face. So like with the
That's
girl
good.
sitting
That's
next to
good
me.
feedback.
So it's like you can tell them, and it's great to tell them.
Yeah.
And I think we should all have little cards with like the information, because
I agree.
the funny thing is that I found that sheet of paper. I've been looking for it forever, and I just happened to open this weird. I don't even know why, but there it was, sitting plain as day. I don't know why I'd missed it, and it was the note the woman had written me. And for years, I thought that she just didn't give me enough information. Oh no, she was detailed. She even told me what movie to watch. The Soma movie called A Mother's Perfect Love. It was like, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, she told me about Halo. She told me the whole Soma's whole thing, all about Robert. It was all there in black and white, but I still didn't receive it. That was like maybe a year or two before this woman. So, people have to be open to it. I'm hoping that with everything happening that this will just be common knowledge and common therapy that they start with, so that we don't have to have that, and people can have this from the beginning and not have to wait till their child's 30 years old to find their voice,
Well,
or
and
20,
these
or
families need help.
yeah,
Yes.
they do. They need help
so
now,
much help.
desperate help.
And to
Yes,
try
desperate.
for society to expect any human being to essentially never sleep, never take care of themselves, never and be judged by society, and be deprived of everything that they normally would, and work full time. It is not physically, emotionally, spiritually possible, while also being isolated and ostracized
You're in
by
survival
society.
mode, really. You're just. My day was just like, how am I gonna get through this day? Like I'd wake up going, okay, how am I gonna get through this day? When he was younger, especially.
Well, my
we
day
got
would start in the
into
middle of the night, where you're like,
literally it would. Like it
you
would
know.
literally, I'd put John Paul down, and then he'd wake up, and I could hear him getting up around 12.
Yeah.
And then he'd be up again until 6, and then he might. And I wanted his brain to rest, so I have to put him to sleep. But he's got to rest that brain. It just, it's just everyone. It's really, again, it's so hard to explain to people who aren't living it, but you can do better. You can be kind. You can. Those are things right away. Just be kind.
Yeah.
You know,
Just be kind.
you know what you brought up.
That makes such a difference.
You
And
brought
hu-
up
and
Soma.
humble.
Yeah.
You brought up Soma, and I wanted to. Did you see that Tito, her son, he just turned 37?
Yes,
did
I
you
did.
read his poem?
Yes, it was
It
fabulous.
was fabulous.
Fabulous.
By the way, Tito has a Facebook page, and you should go and read his poem.
Okay, I want to check this out.
And the whole thing was about unlearning life lessons, and that's really what we are talking about here. Is society has got some old, antiquated ideas, and we need to unlearn them in a big, gigantic
Michael and I talk about this a
way.
lot.
Well, you have to humble
Programming.
yourself.
Yes.
You have to humble yourself
Yeah.
and say, I don't know it all.
Yeah.
This is new information. See, I think I was so excited that I had always been wrong. I was so
I agree.
happy.
It was
like,
like-
I
it
was
was-
like
well-
it was like being born again. Like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
So it was so easy for me to change, but I needed it was so for when people are resistant to it, I'm always kind of shocked, because I was like, God, I've never been happier in my life.
Well,
for no
I
reason
was
there.
thrilled to be
Yes.
wrong, but I will
Thrilled.
say that for me, and I always explain it, enlightenment came with a heavy dose of guilt, because I
Yes.
also realized I had been wrong. I had done everything wrong,
Well, he
and
was
I
older,
and
too.
I had been wrong for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John
That
Paul
was-
was 8, Houston was 20, and I still felt bad about what I had put John Paul through
Yeah.
up to that point.
Yeah.
But 2 decades of doing it everything wrong, and him being deprived of every single typical opportunity that you get in life, the opportunity to speak, to communicate, to be known, to be able to receive an education, to participate in society, to go to church with other people. He was isolated in that situation, to be excluded from every single social, physical, sport, dance, singing, any social activity at all, and scrutinized.
Scrutinized, for sure.
Just
Yeah.
you're a problem. You have this. You need and the just the constant therapies that were traumatic.
I want to say, also, I think it's hard because when we talk about autism and all the different things, that John Paul was, let's just be honest, John Paul was self-injurious,
Yeah.
but he didn't injure other people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Houston's
I
the
think
same.
when
Mm-hmm.
you have a parent whose child does do that dysregulation, they're not, and they feel like they feel in danger. They don't want people to get hurt. That is another huge problem. And I think a lot of that, that is something that I think there needs to be so much more education on, because it's like when we were in Vietnam, we were talking to the sweet girl that was giving us a food tour, street tour of food. It was delicious. Street food tour? Street food. Thank you. And thank you for that.
It's been a dream of mine to do one of
It
those.
was fabulous.
A company approached me one time, but the thing is you have to raise
This girl was lovely. She was amazing. Anyway, she was talking about autism. She said, oh yeah, all the dangerous autistics live in she's like, they're dangerous and they live in a place. And
I was gonna say, the one that's usually the next step, if they're harming their family, they get
and see, that's a whole other thing, and I didn't experience that. I've worked with people but I do think, Katie, that's a whole other thing.
Well, okay, it's malignant catatonia, and people need to understand that this is actually a neurological condition. It's not a behavior. It is a neurological malfunction.
And the guilt they live with, and then, and I have to say, no one wants to get hurt. I mean, it's scary, and so that breaks my heart, because really they're also so misunderstood. And yet everyone has to be safe.
They're dying at what their body is doing.
They're horrified. I had a little girl I worked with, and she was, shred me in the arms. I've had my hair pulled from other, and it's always, I'm so sorry, and I think I really worked really hard on, even though that wasn't John Paul's thing, I worked so hard on regulating my own nervous system, in the sense of really trying to keep positive thoughts in my head, and because our energy affects our child's energy so much, so it can make it worse. And so I think parents need to really, for us in our house, I got to a place of I'm just gonna enjoy my life. We're gonna accept our family. We're gonna love our family. We're gonna have fun no matter what. We're gonna create our own fun.
Yeah.
That took a certain amount of pressure off. I think that may not get rid of but it can't hurt to work on your own joy and your own happiness, because your child will feel that and they can hear it. And so that's why the telepathy matters. Your thoughts matter because your child hears them.
And we have to just address
that's a very
this
important thing.
as a society.
Yeah.
It's time to change our thoughts.
Yeah.
As a society, we need to start thinking and truly believing differently. We have to change our values. We have to change how we look at other people. There's this common thing especially in American society, I don't know about other cultures, but where they, thinking badly about other people makes them feel good about themselves.
Yes.
And we've got to stop that, because, first of all, that's energy. That's going out there. Whether or not you even speak it, it's going out. It's being perceived. It's doing something. That person's spirit feels it, whether or not you say something.
And I know because I have felt that before in my life, where I felt better by knowing something, thinking something bad about others. I know that I admit that that's happened to me. But when I think back on that feeling, I didn't really feel better about myself. It was such a temporary, fleeting moment.
What you
distraction.
Well, and so the hard thing to do is to do what John Paul did, and to love people exactly as they are.
Yeah.
And even when you see their flaws, you go, I'm sure there's a reason that they have that.
Yes.
What could I do to help them feel safe around me?
Yeah.
How can I be a loving, safe place so they don't feel like they have to do that thing? And I want to, I know we could much.
We could make this a two-parter. I'll go check on my son real quick.
I do want to read Houston's eulogy about John Paul.
Oh, I would love that.
Because
beautiful.
And that'd be a good closer
I think
too.
so too.
Because
that would be beautiful.
I think that it really gets to the heart of what love is like, what God's love for us is like, and really what we're supposed to be mirroring, and filling ourselves receiving his unconditional love so that we can pour it out to everybody else. And
it was
that's
so beautiful. I actually have the funeral on my website, the Love John Paul website, because of Houston and Lily, and it was a celebration of a beautiful life lived. It really was. But this is beautiful. I love it, Houston.
And he entitled it A Letter to My Friends. Our entire reason for being on earth is to love. Love is God, and God is love. Nothing else matters but love. John Paul loved God and wanted to get close to him. He learned the best way to be close to God was to learn how to love others. In learning to love others, he learned the heart of God. John Paul let his heart grow without trying to look dignified. Happiness took over. Such love and joy could not be contained even in his enormous form. Having no limits on how much he loved made his body continue to expand just to try to contain his heart. But his heart refused to be limited, and his life became purposed on one thing only: to love like God. The reason we all love John Paul is because that is how God loves. He longs to high-five us, kiss us, play with us, tell us the truth, teach us to hope even through pain, teach us how to forgive others, show us how to see good in those who wronged us, and make truth our only words. The love we all know in John Paul is God. Some people struggle to understand and believe in God and heaven, especially when they experience loss and pain. They can't believe in what they can't see. But we know, we see. For us, it is not faith, it is fact. It is our honor to be his voice, even without one. Kindness and gentleness are his clothes. Hope and laughter are his song of love to us. His words are truth and power. Jesus is our big brother who shows us how to love just like our Father. John Paul's life is all the proof you need to know God exists and lives in everyone who loves. So if you want to see him, look closely into the hearts of those who live without any thought of themselves, who give what life they have in the fullest way they can. Because if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in love, instead of doubting what you don't see and can't understand, just love. Be gentle as John Paul. Be kind as John Paul. Be honest as John Paul. Be joyful as John Paul. Forgive like John Paul. See good in everyone like John Paul. Do good like John Paul. Be a friend to all, just like John Paul. Be the one God made you to be, no one else. Live your life with all your heart, all your might, and all your soul, holding nothing back, just like Christ did for us. Seek good, not pleasure or money, and give generously, just like Christ did for us. For the one that gives will not be able to hold all heaven has stored for all their giving on earth. Seek life trusting God, not in power or control. The one who trusts God will have more power and influence than the wealthiest men on earth. Look at John Paul. He had no money, no power, no voice, yet his life is the most influential life in this room. That's because he chose to trust God and love without any selfish motive or fear. And that is the most powerful force in heaven and earth. Now John Paul's life has begun. His first words in heaven were, I, Son of God, am home. John Paul is bigger and more beautiful than he ever was here on earth. He has more work than the angels can handle. Most people don't know we have jobs in heaven. Small men are those with no love and no integrity, no matter what size they were. Heaven has no jobs for them. Big men are the ones who love and fight for others. That's why John Paul's job is so important in heaven. In heaven, our gentle giant is a warrior, a giant for love. Raising an army has always been his whole purpose, even when he was here. He knew he was called to be great, to lead the forces of heaven for God's mission of love. Power and strength are in good, not in anything that lacks love. Like John Paul, let us win the battle against anything that is not love and live a life all for Christ with a full and undivided heart. John Paul is calling us to fight with him, believing, giving, and being brave, true, kind, and good.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Tearing up. I glanced at the timer when you started talking, and it was 2 hours 22 minutes.
Of course it was.
That's a good number for you guys.
Yes.
That's my mom's number.
That's amazing.
Of course it was.
Amazing. Oh wow. Dang, this was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we hope y'all enjoyed this. This will not be the last time that Libby joins us.
I think I'm speaking for everyone when I say, Libby, get on that book.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need more books.
We do. We do. We have a lot of
A lot of stories. Everyone's got a story in this world. Yeah.
and we have, as a society, as a world, we have a lot of lessons to unlearn, and we don't have to be proud. We can all say, you know what? We were wrong about some things, and we need to relearn. We need to relearn how to love.
It's honestly so freeing when you just decide to do that and say, like, okay, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And
It's
repentance.
freeing.
It's repentance.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
It's the best.
It will
Yes.
set you free.
It does. So true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys, and I love you, Libby.
I love you too, Katie.
We love you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being
This
here.
was fun. This is great.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the Podcast of Heaven. Email us at podcastofheaven@gmail.com. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Asher House Hope. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes and listen to us everywhere podcasts are found. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.